Literally, the climax of the film is a giant dragon fart. It is literally the crux of the plot. Okay?
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on
You're back!
inside the world of CinemaSins.
Sorry.
I am Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined, as always, by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Danae
I'm
Hughes.
very patient.
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. Yeah, I was gone. I'm going to pick a bone right off the bat with you, Danae.
What?
You started the show that I was gone by saying, once again, Aaron didn't email me all the stuff, as if it's not in your email already from the first time, as if you can't look it up and find it.
I have a script.
I have shared that script with you.
Okay, I'm looking for it right now.
Many times. So,
But she's got to be Danae.
no,
Many
see that's the thing.
times.
See, this is the thing, Danae.
Many times.
See, this is the thing. You just need to embrace that.
Listen, I'm looking at 50 emails here. Just
So right off the bat, instead of just embracing your uniqueness and the amazingness that is you, and the way the show is different when you host, right? You throw me under the bus. What is that about? Like,
part of my uniqueness.
nice.
Part of my uniqueness is making you feel great.
Anyways, I'm glad to be back. I genuinely missed this. What are you looking at now, Danae?
Hey, Jonathan, say something.
Hello.
Okay, sorry.
Danae got distracted because Jonathan hadn't said anything for a while, and so she wondered if his track was recording.
I did. I'm sorry.
No,
Listen,
you're fine.
We've just had these things happen in the past where we've lost entire shows.
No, that is true.
So
That's
I looked
true.
over and I was like,
No, I like that you were confused that, like, wait, is Jonathan just listening to us? That's really weird.
Is he
Talking over us?
he's not talking over us? This isn't a normal show?
Stupid
Skype delay.
I was out in Los Angeles for the Critics' Choice Awards. Had a wonderful time.
Rub it in!
What? No. Okay, fine. Let's move on then. I
Yeah,
thought you guys
let's
wanted
move
to
on.
talk about
No,
that.
I would. Hold on. So you have to tell the Andrew Scott story though, because he said something about he was glad he was behind a hedge.
Yes. Yeah. After I got done talking, so Andrew Scott is from most recently Fleabag, which has gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah.
He's known as the hot priest in Fleabag. And he's also been in a great episode of Black Mirror. I loved his performance in his episode on Black Mirror. He's also, of course, Moriarty from the BBC Sherlock series.
That's where I know him from.
And he's great. He's awesome. And so basically I get done telling him how awesome he is. And he says something along the lines of, well, I'm glad there's a hedge between us.
That is awesome.
So perfect.
And
Because
he
I'm
was-
stalking
man, he
him,
was-
he'd be worried if there wasn't a hedge between us that I might attack him or something.
Yeah, and
So-
I'm not great with colors. I guess I'm colorblind. I don't know or shade blind or whatever. But I think it was red that he was wearing. He was rocking that suit.
Oh yeah, he had like a red jacket and almost like a purple shirt on underneath it. It was it was.
I was like,
cool.
man, am I into Andrew Scott? Huh?
He's attractive. He is an attractive man. That is not a lie. And there were a lot of attractive people that walked by
What?
on the blue
Attractive
carpet.
Yeah,
people in
Quentin
Hollywood?
Tarantino. That's
Sure.
terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He just kept looking down at my feet. I don't know what that was about, but
So did you talked to Tarantino too, right? Or
Yes.
because you took a picture of him.
no. Well, yeah, I talked to him for a bit because that was after the show was over. They won Best Picture. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood won Best Picture at the Critics' Choice Awards, and so he came back into that area behind where I was taking pictures and for Critics' Choice, and so took some pictures of him, and I think Julia Butters was with him, the girl that's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because she was nominated for Best Young Performer.
I call my dog
yeah.
Butters.
Yeah, she's great.
Oh, nice. It wasn't your dog. It was an actress.
I'm just saying, when you said Butters, I was like, no.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, no, it's a great scene. I love that scene. And so I got a chance to just say thank you for your work. It was nice because if it had been any other year with any other Quentin Tarantino movie, I would kind of had to put on a little false niceness because I'm not a huge Quentin Tarantino fan.
Like,
but
I hate your work.
But it was the one year I actually really like his movie. It's my favorite Tarantino movie that he's ever done. And so I got to talk to him a little bit. And then I was like, hey, do you mind if we take a selfie? And he was like, no, I got to see what my people are doing. Got to get out of here or whatever. And so I was like, cool. Because by the way, I have no expectations. If you say no, that's totally your right.
Absolutely.
I have no qualms about that. So, but anyways, about 5 minutes later, he still hadn't kind of made his way out of the area. He was still talking with people, and he was like, "Hey, let's go ahead and get that picture." And so I was like, "Oh, okay,
that's
cool."
nice.
So yeah, it was really nice.
Probably also because you were very cool about it. He was probably like, I should probably be nice to that guy.
That's what I was thinking too. He's probably so used to people wanting something from him, and so to have you be like, "Oh yeah, cool, no problem." He that probably stood out to him. He's probably thinking about you right now.
So
how cool
were
you are.
Like backstage the whole show?
Pretty much. Well, I worked the blue carpet, not the red carpet. It's the blue carpet at the Critics' Choice Awards for the first time, and because my pictures were so nice, and I will try not to talk about Google here too much for you, Jonathan.
I'm kidding. Talk about it as much as you want.
No. Both the new iPhone and the new Pixel have incredible cameras on them. But because those pictures were so nice, they were like, hey, can you come backstage and take pictures for the official Critics' Choice account because your pictures look so good. So yeah, I was in the show for about... watching the show for about 30 minutes, and then the rest of the time I was backstage taking pictures. So, yeah, it was fun.
So was Jenn with you? Or
she was stuck out at the table. He abandoned his wife.
So,
who were you sitting with this year?
I've abandoned my wife! I had the worst seats I've ever had. Which is fine. I mean, it's gonna... Somebody has to sit there, right? By
the bathrooms in the very, very back?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. As far back in the corners you can get. So there was no talent at our table, although I did love the people at our table. They're actually good friends of mine. Almost everybody that sat at our table.
Can you rephrase that? There was talent there. It was just not...
I meant talent in the noun sense of what you
world
can nominate.
There weren't people that were nominated
Correct.
for
I know what
awards.
you meant.
Okay.
I'm just saying it sounded weird.
Well, they're very talented people at my table.
There you are.
They just were not nominees on that evening or performers in that way.
I realize now that me asking you to rephrase it took a long time.
But when he texted me, your pictures look amazing. The next thing he texted was, "Who are you? Are you here with anybody, or are you here alone?" And so, actually, I think he just texted, "Are you here by yourself, or are you here alone?" And I texted back, "Well, I'm with my wife." And he was like, "Oh man, enjoy the show." And I was like, "Well, did you want something?" And he was like, "Well, if you weren't with somebody, I was going to see if you'd come back and take pictures." I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I show Jenn, and she's like, "Are you kidding? We've been married 25 years. Go have fun."
Get out of here.
So
nice wife.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's incredible. So when I went back there, I told him, kind of what happened, and he laughed and he said, "I was afraid when I said, 'Are you here alone?' that you thought I was hitting on you."
So LA.
I was like, "Well, here's my hotel key, so whatever. Give me a call."
So who is this? This is the person who runs the
social
awards?
media.
This is Aaron's new boyfriend, apparently.
That's right.
He now lives with you.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't know you knew that.
Along with all of his grown
I've always
children.
wanted to live in Missouri.
Yes, everybody in LA is begging to get to Springfield, Missouri. They want to do the reverse Brad Pitt.
Oh my God.
But how did they not already have someone with a good camera?
But they probably have good cameras, but maybe not instantly digital, where it's taken so quickly on a phone.
So they can have it on social media.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So
and
then
Aaron's the only person in LA with a Google phone.
apparently.
It might be true.
What if it is true? You're the only person with a Google Pixel.
They're so Apple-centric out there. That's so funny.
I mean, I really wonder what the. I mean, Apple's got to be. I can't even imagine what the percentage is. I mean, I guess Samsung does really well, but
yeah.
Oh my God.
Especially out there. You guys ready to get into it?
Can we?
Yep.
Yes. Let's talk about the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the content in general. We will start with TV Sins, of course, and another episode of The Big Bang Theory. This time we're doing the bath item gift hypothesis. This was a Dicer-Watkinson joint, as Jonathan and I wrote on it. So do we have anything else to say about the show in general, about Big Bang Theory?
I wasn't here. That was a Creasy episode.
Oh, when we talked about Big Bang Theory before? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you guys even said, like, it really stinks Jonathan's not here, because I think he's the only one that's watched this show.
Right. So now's your chance, Jonathan. Tell us about Big Bang Theory.
Finally, weeks later.
No, this was a show that my wife was really into, and she watched, I believe, every episode. I can't say that I've seen every episode, but I've probably seen a good, 80% of the series, just watching it with her. I think that it is a very generic type sitcom, but I do think that for a sitcom like this, the actors work really well together, and they have some interesting character moments sometimes and stuff. So, I mean, I thought it was a perfectly fine show. I didn't love it by any means, but I never quite got why people hate it so much. And I have a feeling a lot of people that hate it haven't really watched it.
I think you're right. I know that's true for me. I haven't really watched it.
Yeah.
I know that's true for me. I hate it.
I do feel like I hate it, but I don't have any. No, I do, but I don't have any reason to. I haven't really watched the show.
You're not normally that guy.
Well, I mean, hate is an interesting word. I hate the idea of false, inauthentic comedy, and this idea of laugh tracks has always been one that's gotten under my skin. And The Big Bang Theory is one of those that I've seen videos on of without the laugh track, and you just watch it and you go,
cringe.
Oh my goodness, this is cringy.
So the show you're talking about, I guess, the show that plays more to the laugh track,
right?
Yeah,
and half the things, and it's hard for me to separate because we, spoiler alert, I have more Big Bang Theory episodes coming, and so I'm trying to remember which was with which.
Yeah.
But there is this element of things that they laugh at really have no right to be laughed at, not because they're not funny, but they aren't even written funny. I don't know. It's really weird. Some of the places they pause for laughter aren't even intended to be jokes. So I don't know. It's weird.
I do wonder how many shows, if you played them without, that have laugh tracks, if you played them without the laugh track, would they be any better than Big Bang Theory? I'm sure some would.
Not much. I for one am glad that we've gone away from the multi-camera laugh track sitcom and are kind of moving towards the single camera thing.
Well, and it's interesting too when you're watching a show like that because there's somebody prompting you on what's supposed to be funny.
Yes, totally.
All the time. There's never there's rarely an authentic moment where the audience reacts. What's a show that was fully live with no laugh track, back in the day?
Well, a lot of, actually laugh tracks started really quickly after they started doing live recordings. So even Dick
I
Van
Love
Dyke,
Lucy, I believe eventually had a laugh track. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it did the whole time.
Yeah.
I just,
News Radio is actually probably my all-time favorite sitcom.
Yeah.
It had a laugh track for sure.
Sure.
It's just so interesting to think we want people to find this show funny, but we're not going to trust that the audience will laugh when we think it's funny. So we're going to create our own laughter moment. I find that really interesting.
It's just also manufactured. Yeah. It just feels so manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably where my hatred is too strong a word.
And there's also the fanboy culture, I guess, also seemed to get really offended by this show, which I also never really understood.
You mean where they're fans of comics and stuff like that?
Yeah. But I mean, I never really got that they were making fun of that type of person. Once again, I feel like these are people that just refuse to watch the show.
Yeah.
Because they heard something and then they were like, well, screw that show. It makes fun of us. And I think there was some love there for that type of culture. I mean, I'm a comic fan and I like Star Trek and a lot of the stuff that they talk about. And I definitely never got offended by anything that they did.
There's also an interesting line that the show tries to walk between the idea of being a Uber fan or also dealing with OCD, like, those kind of like actual mental tendencies or issues. And so there's kind of that almost bordering into autism, those kind of things, like spectrum kind of issues.
Are you talking about with Sheldon?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that is something I could totally see somebody, because that is a weird aspect to the show to me, because I never quite got what they were trying to do with his character.
I don't know that they knew 100% either. I think that they, like any show does, they kind of find a character trait and then they just blow it out and amplify it for humor.
These are sitcom stereotypes. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly
but this
what
time
they
it's
are.
like focusing more on the geek part. It's kind of like the Nerds movie or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like Howard, for instance, is very much like I wouldn't call him sexual deviant. Well, maybe he is sexual deviant. Maybe that is the best way to put it. But like, you have those characters in like other shows. Like, I don't know what that made me think of this, but like Three's Company, you had like Larry,
right?
Or like Night Court, you had the John Larroquette character. I mean, that's essentially what Howard is.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, he's also very much like a geek. He's very smart. So, but it's still at the core of the characters. I think you still have those very, very generic sitcom tropes.
I think for me, actually sending this has allowed me to see some of the flashes of what really works with this show, because there's some really clever things that this show does. In fact, the whole premise of this episode is really clever. The idea
what is the premise of this episode?
The premise of the episode is that he is so hung up on being given a gift that he has to give return a gift to them that is of exactly equal value. Like, that is the gift hypothesis.
How did he know what he was going to be given?
Well, he didn't. And so that's kind of the premise of the episode, is him figuring out how to be ready for any...
Oh, so at the end of it, whenever he gives all the gift baskets, it's because the gift was so meaningful.
Right. It was so... He had bought different value gift baskets.
Oh, my God.
Based on the idea that depending on how much it was worth, he could go Google how much it was worth and then give the appropriate gift basket.
And he was given a Leonard Nimoy
napkin. Yeah.
A napkin that Leonard Nimoy signed and he used at the Cheesecake Factory, which is where Penny works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that part of the episode was great.
So it has allowed me to see, okay, there really is cleverness here, but it's just hard to swim through, for me, all the inauthenticity of the manufacturedness of the whole thing.
And a lot of the stuff with Leonard and Dave and Penny, a lot of that was not very funny, and a lot of that was very generic, and that's why we wrote that scene at the end where we kind of touched on, you could see the light, but then at the same time that almost made it more annoying, the stuff that sucked.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's talk about the video itself. Since Jonathan and I wrote on it, we start with Danae. What are some of your thoughts from watching the video?
I really loved That's Physicist. That was one of my favorite ones. And what was fun for me, too, is I actually watched this Sins video in the same room with Aaron before the show started, because I hadn't fully prepped like I usually do. Mm-hmm. And so there were a few that I got to react to, and Aaron, who wrote on it, is sitting right there. And I really kind of, sometimes, like, it kind of gave me this glimpse into a world where, I'm not saying where we all sit here and the entire show is us rewatching everything together.
Right.
But there was something really fun about that, because there was one that was Roll Nerdmercials. And I was like, oh, like it made me groan. And you wrote that one. And so then we got to kind of have this awkward exchange where, like, I pooped on your sin, and I was like, that was lame.
I originally was thinking roll come nerdshals.
No.
But,
no.
It was interesting watching you react in the room. It was kind of fun, because we're all I think we love what we do. And when somebody laughs at something or enjoys something or doesn't enjoy it, it means something to us, you know, because we really do want the audience to have a good time.
And the other thing that was kind of fun specifically about that experience too was then there was another sin that now I know you wrote, Aaron, which was the safe word one. And it ended with hamster.
Well, Jonathan wrote that sin.
Oh.
And
no, you did.
I thought I just wrote the tag. I wrote the whole sin.
Oh, that's right. You did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that was a combine. I wrote the tag, and
I just remember asking you about the tag, if that actually meant something.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the hamster paisley, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I was like, I don't get hamster paisley, and Aaron instantly starts laughing, and he explains that that's his safe word is hamster paisley, and then the whole rest of the sin, just sung for me. Anyway, I think it'd be kind of fun if there's a way for us to, I don't know, maybe during Sin Week, to like actually visually show some of our favorite ones instead of just talk about them.
We did.
You were about to say to come up with safe words.
We might need to.
Well, we might need safe words at Sin Week. You don't know. I think we kind of did that last year. We did watch the Sins video that came out during Sin Week.
It was the last Patreon only one. It was the John Travolta Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, Battlefield Earth. We watched the Battlefield Earth Sins video live with everybody. So that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
it would be so much prep work. I'm not sure how we would do it because we'd have to have like almost like one of those little clicker presenter.
Yeah, we just
things.
watched it and laughed together.
But it was really fun to watch the Sins video with friends. And then my other question's already been answered, which was it seemed like this ended with such big heart, and I was smiling really, really big by the end. Even though I didn't 100% know what was happening, I could kind of piece together that he'd been given something so valuable, and to see, the actor, whoever plays Sheldon, to see him react and then go and get all those gift baskets. I was smiling so big, and then the title card at the end, or whatever you call it at the end, where it shows like how many sins,
the sentence, but then like the background image is of Sheldon and Penny hugging. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, they kind of had a connective moment. Because I'm not watching this show like you have watched, Jonathan, my last experience, or my experience with like Sheldon and Penny, is they're really like standoffish to each other. So to see them kind of have this hug, I was like, oh, look, their friendship is developing, and that's kind of cool.
Their relationship actually is probably, and they don't have a sexual relationship. Their friendship, I guess I should say, their friendship on the show is probably the best, like, two characters together. Like, they pretty early on, they realized, I guess, they worked well together. That's cool. And they play off each other really well. That's cool.
But yeah, I really had a fun time with this one. Good job, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, appreciate that. The only sin I would mention, because it's one that I'm excited to continue to try to do, is every Big Bang Theory episode, I want to try to get in a Who's the Nerd Now nerd
because we kind of started off that way.
Yeah, where we out-nerd the nerds.
Yeah.
Did we do that on the pilot?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we did. I remember hearing that before.
Yeah, I think I remember either writing it or helping craft that one, but it was something that I ended up looking up, and we kind of really pushed on the nerd.
And on this one, it was for the how you make a clone, and actually scientists, for the most part, there are a few stragglers, but for the most part, scientists agree you cannot make a clone with saliva because
it doesn't have any of this.
Doesn't have an intact nucleus or nucleotide.
Gotta have that nucleotide.
So yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Of course, everybody knows. And I didn't even have to look that up. That's just something I know from my day-to-day life.
We talk about it every day. Super much part of our world.
What about you, Jonathan? Anything else you wanted to mention from the video?
Well, I did want to bring up, I think out of all of us at the Sins channels, I probably fight for my stuff the least. I should have kept Joyce Kim in there instead of just calling her Joyce.
It was just one of those weird situations.
We should have gone with Joyce Kim for the fans, and nobody really said anything about that. But just after watching the video, after it got released, I was like, man, I wish I had just said, let's keep Kim in there, because you guys hadn't seen the shows that much, so you didn't know that was like a common way they phrase it. And it's actually I'm trying to remember if the character even is on the show, with the exception of flashbacks.
I don't
but
know.
it's just it's kind of a running joke with a past love of Leonard's or whatever.
Well, the good news is we can correct that, because we've got an upcoming episode that she's in, and I believe we do call her Joyce Kim. So,
and that's a very minor thing. It's not a big deal. I mean, her name is Joyce, but I just afterwards, my wife even said, like, why didn't you make it Joyce Kim? I'm like, because I have no backbone.
Because I have no backbone. Oh.
Yeah. No, it's not that. I just, but the female stereotype hat trick, though, was the only other thing I wanted to mention. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in Keeping Tabs.
Cool.
So yeah, that was one of my favorite jokes too. Let's move on to Schitt's Creek. That's right, I said Schitt's Creek. It's kind of funny because I'll just start off with this, but there's a sin in this one that's kind of a running gag about actually saying shit, because it's Schitt's Creek. And I mean, if you know me, I'm not a swearer. It's just not something I do in my day-to-day life.
I'm pretty sure anyone who says swearer is not one. So it's pretty fair
enough. I don't
to
like
give
words
away.
that cause my mouth to.
And I've talked about it before. I don't, it's not that I even care anymore. I just don't have a lot of practice. And so I just kind of continue on with my life, speaking the way I speak.
Can I tell a story about when we got hired?
Sure.
I still remember, because I didn't know you that well. In fact, I hadn't even met you in person yet when all this started happening. And I just remember there was an email where I think Chris had just sent us like some guideline stuff about writing or whatever. And then I just remember Aaron emailing us back and saying something along the lines of, is it okay if I don't like write curse words? Because like, not that I have a problem with it, I'm just really bad at it.
Gosh
Although
darn
that's
it.
not true. That is not true.
I've
found
gotten
out
better
very
at
quickly.
It. Yeah, I've figured it out. I put myself in the psyche of the narrator.
Yeah.
How I love creative swearing when I'm typing and writing and that kind of thing. Anyways, I mentioned this because that is the world I come from as well. And I was recently at Thanksgiving and we were talking about this show and just the ridiculousness of the fact that people won't like title the show. They won't say like Schitt's Creek. They'll.
I got to do some looking into even how they pitch the show.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. They're like, well, we need to change the title.
So I'm in this conversation with, family members or whatever, and they're like, hey, did you see the latest episode of The Creek? And that kind of...
No,
and you can't say that because The Creek is Dawson's Creek.
I know.
That is the only show you can call The Creek.
Anyhow, I just
Dirty word Creek.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Have you seen the latest episode of Craps Creek? No, that doesn't work.
They actually had to show that there are people with the last name of Schitt, that they're legit. That it's a legit family name.
Oh, interesting.
And that was part of what eventually led to them partnering with, I think, Logo. I know is the one that carries it, but I can't remember.
I thought it was Pop TV.
Pop. Thank you. Pop. And so,
which is actually this is going to sound so bougie, but this is why I didn't watch it when it first aired, because on Xfinity, at least here locally, we only get the standard definition channel for Pop.
I see.
I didn't want to, and I was like, why am I going to watch a show in SD?
Well, let's continue this conversation, but before we do, we send the pilot of Schitt's Creek. This was a Hughes Watkins script, so Danae and Jonathan wrote on this one, and I love this show. It is one of my favorite things on TV, and I think a lot of that just has to do with the talent, right? Like, it's just, those people are so good together.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Although, when I've watched everything except for this most recent season, and
which is the final season.
And I did not like it until about the 4th or 5th episode, when the characters started to develop a sense of like essentially it's a show that was developed to make fun of the reality Kardashian type life, which you totally can pick up on instantly. But
there's an empathy for these people.
What I didn't expect was to begin to see the shell crack open and see what happens when they're trying to figure out who they are, and they're legitimately in a circumstance that they kind of can't get out of in this sort of humorous small town way. While they're still very eccentric and those parts of their personalities never really fade away, they mature and become relatable, and I didn't expect that at all. And so it's a show that's made me laugh. It's made me cry. It's a surprise show for me, one I did not expect. But it took me about 5 episodes to really be like, oh, I think I'm going to watch everything that this show puts out. So
the fact that Eugene and Daniel Levy, father and son, are doing this together, I think has a lot to do with it too. Like, they just know each other so well.
And it didn't start off that way.
Yeah.
Daniel had the idea. He went to his dad to kind of get some feedback since he's been
in the industry for so long.
And then when it came to like time to hire the people who are going to be acting and the cast, it wasn't like, and you're going to play my dad. That wasn't the plan. So he still had to, audition and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed reading up on how this show was developed, because it is obviously one that I like. So
that's cool.
The entire cast was there at the Critics' Choice Awards,
and it didn't win, and I was so bummed.
I know, and they all were sitting at the table together, and they're such lovely people. But they were on the blue carpet, and it was so funny to watch them as a group, like, go from other famous person to other famous person and get pictures or whatever, to watch them with Eddie Murphy or whoever it might be. It was kind of one of those weird things where it's like, okay, now I'm seeing the real actual people interact, but also there's the family from Schitt's Creek right on the blue carpet.
Yeah.
There was just kind of that interesting duality thing going on.
I know Eugene Levy's son, I read where he's really tight with Catherine O'Hara because she's known him since he was a baby.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know about Annie Murphy. I don't know how she fits into the whole scenario, but who, by the way, Annie Murphy has the I don't want to sound like rude, but she has the most adorable IMDb photo I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah, it's just adorable. You should look it up.
She's great.
Yeah,
she plays Alexis.
And I like both of the kids now. I will say this is the first episode I ever watched. It's definitely a pilot.
Yes, for sure.
It's setting up everything, so I'm sure it gets a lot better, and I'm interested enough to see it. Plus, I love Levy and O'Hara.
Not everybody...
But I ended up watching this. I swear to God, I watched this episode 8 times.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about that.
Because it was so hard to send.
It was so hard to send.
I went from really not being able to stand the performance of Dan Levy to loving him.
Yes.
He's the best. He's my favorite.
The 8th time I watched the same episode.
That's what I'm saying, is that if you just watch it like once and like you're just watching it going, I don't know if this is connecting. They're so annoying, which is part of the point. But as you watch the show, it like you realize that there's a purpose in it, like that it's not just scripts that are written because this is going to get an audience reaction, that they're very purposeful in how they're creating these characters. There's a lot of attention into that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great.
As someone who has seen a lot of SCTV and has watched Best in Show like 800 times, and I've seen Levy and O'Hara together, and they often play a couple in the Christopher Guest movies and whatnot. Just seeing them together for so long, I think it was hard to even get into the kids because you're just like, I don't know, Levy and O'Hara felt so natural, and then you got these kids trying to like.
But I got to tell you,
play along with them.
Their chemistry and relationship, Annie Murphy and Dan Levy, has become my favorite thing about the show. I giggle every time she says his name. Like it's David. David.
That shut up scene though was a great example of where like the first time I saw it, I'm like, I know this is supposed to be annoying, but I'm not finding this funny. And then I've reenacted it a couple times for my wife. So
You shut up. No, you shut up.
You two wrote on this, so I'm going to kick us off going into the Sins video itself. I have a lot to say. I loved this video. You guys did a great job.
It was so hard, dude.
Here are, I believe it.
We legitimately had to watch it a million times.
Yeah.
Aaron, if you would have watched the Sin video the way that Jonathan and I originally wrote it, there's like 6 sins and then a bonus round, and then we're done. So,
by the way, I love the bonus round.
We had to keep just massaging
We're
this
killing
beast.
it with bonus rounds on TV Sins, by the way.
But but we had some great stuff come out later. Like the North by Northwest came out later.
Yeah.
And a few other things. But sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
No. I just really enjoyed it. 2 arms deep in pearl necklaces made me giggle. I thought that was hilarious. I love anytime we self-reference, like we think they're talking about us, so they don't take it personal. Sin was really funny.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Is that cool? So that's one where I've been doing this thing lately when I submit scripts. Where I know there's a sin there, but I can't find it. So I'll send just the like what's happening on screen and then literally nothing afterwards. And so Jonathan has gotten 2 of these scripts from me recently, and he's like, "Did you forget something here?" And I'm like, "No, I just know there's something and I don't know what it is." And so that was one of those moments where there's something here, I don't know what it is. And Jonathan's like, does that self-referential like slam. And I'm going, that was it. And that was so obvious. How did I not find it? So
no, I love that kind of stuff. I already mentioned the running joke about actually being able to say shit, which I loved. And I loved the capper on it at the end. I could do this all day, just to finish on. Because that's one of the things I really like to do with scripts, if we have a running gag, is to finish with that running gag. I think there's something beautiful about the idea of how that ties up as a concept, and it's fun to leave the audience with something that's like, I remember that. Guys. Yeah, exactly. So
that was really good job, Jonathan.
Yeah, I liked that. The observations about the solitaire game I thought were really fascinating because
we got yelled at about that by
fans. This is what I was going to say.
Pause.
This is what I was going to say. I haven't done any research, but I guarantee you there is an actual solitaire game.
Had no idea
that could be played like that.
Hey guys, welcome to the portion of the show where Danae says I fucked up again.
We're all to blame.
Let me tell you that I did not know that there are games where you just have 2 suits.
Yeah,
but I
Did anybody name the game? I feel like I've played this game before.
Klondike.
Yes, Klondike. I think that's it because
is it too sweet? Is it too sweet?
I've just
Klondike?
played Too Suit.
Too Suit. Thank you.
Too Suit.
Thank
Klondike.
you.
That's all right.
Today, this is the part of the.
I can tell you live the fancy life going and staying in suites.
Yeah. I've just been dreading this moment of the show for.
I wore a three-piece suite to the awards. So, anyways, no, there's so many solitaire games. And I have played a lot of them. In my memory, when you were talking about that, I was like, oh no, somebody's going to tell them exactly what this solitaire game is. But also, it's still a sin because she has the same exact setup later on in the show with one card move.
I know. It's still a sin. It's just a different. I mean, it should have been a different kind
worded,
of a
maybe
sin.
a little bit differently or whatever. Because the sin could have been for not playing the right kind of solitaire too, which is like who plays Klondike on their Windows machine or whatever. So.
Yeah, but there was so much going on in that game that was confusing to me. There were multiple cards of the same.
Yep, it's a multi-deck game.
It's a multi-deck game, but then also there were. It was like not in descending order, so which makes sense if you're going to cover the whole game in a new layer of cards.
Exactly.
That does make sense now, but I stared at this going, what the absolute heck is going on? Because in the first one, there's a 9 of hearts, and then in the next one, it's clear she's moved it over. Anyway, I obviously am very passionate about this.
Yeah.
But it annoyed the crap out of me because, like, in the first scene, we see that there's a 9 that's in a blank spot, and the next time the 9 has been moved on top of a 6.
Played regular solitaire and spider, and I think that's it in my life.
Well, I brought it up.
Free cell solitaire.
Yeah, Free Cell is. In fact, we sent Pam for playing Free Cell in the Office video. And by the way, that was because I love solitaire sins. I brought all this up to say how much I loved those sins, even though Klondike is an actual type of solitaire, because it's fun for me to think about all the time I've spent playing cards alone in my life, and now we know why. I also think That's a Butt Unfortunate was possibly my biggest laugh of the episode. I love
there were a lot of sins that got like she was saying massaged. I know that was one of them where
you wrote that one, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if this was the word butt?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it ties it all together. That's great. Great stuff. So great job, guys. Either of you have anything you want to talk about from the video?
Nope.
Jonathan?
The North by Northwest thing was fun to write. That's one of my all-time favorite scenes ever in a movie.
Yeah.
And I actually had a professor in college bring up the idea that it was because James Mason is like this theatrically trained actor, and Cary Grant is more of like the movie star. And he was just always talking about how the way he thought of that scene was that you had like the classically trained actor telling the movie star or showing the movie star what real acting was or whatever, And so that was just kind of fun to mess with and play around with and bring attention to a wonderful movie.
Very nice. Let's move on to music video sins. We'll talk about Selena Gomez, Rare.
I love this song.
Tell me about it, Jonathan. Why do you love this song so much?
I mean, I don't know. It's a pop song, but I've always thought I listen to a lot of pop music. A, because I work on music video sins, but B, because I have a young child and she listens to a lot of pop music. So I find stuff that I find more tolerable than others. So we can listen to them in the car together. And one of the artists that I think she's kind of underrated, Selena Gomez, has had quite a few songs that I've enjoyed. And it's been really interesting to see her just grow as an artist. And I'm telling you, not only is this song good, this album kicks all the ass. This is one of my favorite pop albums I've heard in a long, long time.
Nice.
But I don't know. I love the style of it. I love her voice. It works really well with this. It's kind of, I don't know. It's just kind of got that. I'm trying to think of the type of music. It's got this really smooth beat to it, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of calmer. It's not like one of those hard hitting pops where it's just like, it's calm. It's taking its time.
And it's a pretty fun. It's a pretty cool video. I like the aesthetic of the video itself. So I don't know, but I just really, really dig the song.
I mean, thank God we had the Shimmer conversation last week because that was all I was getting. And I was so excited to see it in the Sins video because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking as I was watching.
Right.
I would have had no idea that was even a thing until we sent the video.
It's almost like this song was written for the closing credits of Annihilation, and the video was done. I mean, it just seems so perfectly like it. I really like the song as well. I'm not blown away by it necessarily, but I probably need to just listen to it more.
It's nice.
It's just a nice song.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the video. I love when we mess with the form. I love the fact that we pulled out and showed like suggested videos and did a sin about that. And then the idea that continued into, where have all the contributors gone? And as he's listing them, it's popping them up in the title itself. And then when he said, pick a GD Lane or whatever, it puts as the contributor GD Lane.
It was awesome.
I thought that was great.
I really
great.
felt like in this one that music from behind was leaking into
Yes,
it a lot.
yeah.
There were several moments where I was like, that's a he's itching to get back into music from behind. I think
the triplets.
The triplets. That's what. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The fact that she's 3 people. So
I also really like though how like you guys were talking about. It's really interesting how sometimes all the different channels videos kind of come out together, because the Annihilation thing is interesting because I wonder, and Barrett had seen Annihilation before, but I wonder if he had, if we hadn't had that video, would he have even thought of that? Which ended up being a really good part of this video.
Right.
It's just neat how sometimes like our most recent videos play into what we write in the next one.
Barrett said that Rare is a delightful song and that Selena Gomez is a treasure and should be held in a museum that celebrates her awesomeness. I don't know. I get this impression that maybe he appreciates her as an artist.
I think so. Very nice. Well, let's move on to the CinemaSins then. We'll start with Bad Boys 2.
What you gonna do?
Well, we had some winning movies this week.
Boy, I got to tell you, which, by the way, I've seen Bad Boys for Life. It's not bad. It's actually not bad.
It's not at all. I agree.
Not bad.
It is the best Bad Boys movie.
It's amazing.
I think.
It's amazing when you take Michael Bay out of something, how you can find something special sometimes.
How it's less offensive and
but this movie
legitimately funny. Anyways, but Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2 is bad. If the Bad Boys movies work for any reason, like the first two, it's because of the chemistry between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Like that's the only thing I can think as to why these movies became a franchise to begin with. Is those two are funny humans who actually have a decent chemistry together.
Yep.
So that's the only thing, the only reason I can give that this movie might have fans.
This movie has a large fan base.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't either. I've heard people talk about how it's just so ridiculous and so over the top that it works, and I know it's like that's why it doesn't work. I mean, there are movies like that work. Like maybe Die Hard 2, for instance.
Or Six Underground.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if that's your thing, yeah, no, I get that. But Six Underground is a lot less, is a lot better than this.
I think so. I had a good time.
I didn't like Six Underground, but I'll take it over this any day of the week.
Yeah. Danae, what do you think? What's your experience with the Bad Boys movies? Have you ever actually watched them or just kind of watched the Sins video?
No, I haven't. I have zero experience with Bad Boys except for the song.
With Bad Boys in general? You
what you gonna do?
You don't have any experience with Bad Boys in your life?
Oh, in my life in particular? Yeah, well, that's another podcast.
That's an entirely another 50-episode podcast.
Have you had any experience watching rats have sex?
Not yet.
And oh my God, once again, such a weird coincidence that we have sins revolving around rats doing something together.
Yeah.
You guys, it's a sign that we're on the right path.
So the connections
are the connections there. No, I don't have any experience with, these, like the action films. Of course, I've seen action movies and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was triggered the entire time I was watching them.
Oh, nice. I cannot wait to hear about it.
Very frustrating for me to watch.
I should mention this is a Scott Share video, so Jeremy and Barrett wrote on this one.
And I should mention that I asked them what they thought of it too, so I have that loaded in as well.
Well, why don't we go there? Why don't we hear what they had to say about it first?
Okay, Barrett. We'll start with Barrett. He said this movie is the shittiest shit to ever shit. Somehow it's gotten somehow it's gotten a reputation as being passable, even good, but it's so terrible. The only good thing about it is the Puff Daddy Nelly Murphy Lee song from the soundtrack.
Oh, he loves that
song.
That song
is glorious.
he loves that song.
He won't stop talking about it.
He does a very good rendition of the Murphy Lee rap, so we should get him to do that at Sun Week.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Challenge
Calling him
accepted.
out.
Oh yeah, by the way, it might happen because there's little rumors going around about possibly a talent show.
A talent show?
A talent show
Oh,
from
no.
people at Sin Week. So be getting your talents ready.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
God,
I'm going to go to the doctor the day before so I can get sick.
oh no, I'm suddenly very sick.
Listen, you have written some amazing songs.
I am not singing at Sin Week.
No, why not?
No.
Why not?
No, that part of my life is dead.
Oh my. I think we need to explore. Danae, do you have things you need to talk about?
Not here on this show.
All right. Fair enough.
But probably. No, man, my voice is different now. I've been sick for so long; it's never coming back.
Okay, maybe that'll
Can you
give it a different
imagine
texture.
me sitting up there with the guitar going, ah, ah, ah.
Well, I can now.
That's oddly enough what I hear in my head when I'm watching Bad Boys 2.
Right.
All 2
anyways.
hours and like 40 minutes of it. It's an insanely long movie as well.
Barrett goes on to say, I could go on a whole rant about the confrontation with the kid at the door. It's horrible and yet compulsively watchable. Its inclusion is the most offensive thing about an offensive movie. And as somebody who hasn't seen the movie, I know that part was sinned, but I totally do not understand what happened at the door. So I have no...
Jonathan, you want to explain it?
That kid is coming over. Well, maybe that's a spoiler for Bad Boys for Life. But that kid is going on a date with Martin Lawrence's daughter.
Okay.
So Will Smith and Martin Lawrence decide to, do the generic stereotype of, trying to scare the kid.
Right.
Because he's dating his daughter, and I guess Will Smith is Uncle Mike. I guess he's not really her uncle, but they're close. And it goes on for like 20 minutes.
Whoa!
Yeah.
And it's just insane.
Why is it offensive?
And you've already got like a really, really long movie, so when you have a scene like that in there, it just really stands out.
Well, I don't know if he means it's offensive just because it's bad filmmaking, or if he actually means it's offensive because of the way they treat this child.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they are treating a 15, 16-year-old kid. I mean, yeah, it's
if anybody
pretty bad.
ever actually did this to somebody, they should be arrested. Like it's
Absolutely.
The way they treat him is horrible.
Okay.
So, but it's
Absolutely.
hilarious apparently.
You have that, and then it's almost as funny as Rat Sex.
Almost.
Yeah.
Then Jeremy said he hated this movie while sitting it. It's just big, dumb, and loud, but with no coherent story. Some Fast and Furious movies have a better story than this. He did say that writing the sin about the stuff on the captain's desk was one of his favorite sin writing experiences
That was
ever.
great. That was one of my faves.
And I agree. Well, I'm excited to talk more about that here in a minute. He also said he had fun researching above ground pools so that he could dunk on Marcus, saying his pool was super expensive. So it sounds like the guys did not really enjoy this movie.
I will say I bought, this was like 2003, 2004. I actually owned a above ground pool, which is like one of the worst things to ever own. Don't ever buy an above ground pool. And it was around that same time, and ours was probably a little bigger than that, but it was pretty close to like $4,000. Like I think that pool could have been $4,000.
Oh.
But I'm just saying, I think that pool could have been $4,000, especially in Miami.
Yeah, are above ground pools more expensive in Miami or less? I would think they'd be less based on the laws.
Maybe
of
they would be because you'd have more
supply
people.
and demand, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, an in-ground pool is like minimum like $15,000.
Yeah, that's a bit more expensive if you want to.
But I'm just saying, if you do you think about it, I mean, $4,000's not that crazy, if you're trying to go cheaper. But I don't know.
And you can get a nice bathtub for a couple hundred. So I don't know.
That's true. You can get a blow-up inflatable pool for
That's right.
$30.
There you go. See, you're all set.
Pool conversations are this whole thing is just really frustrating to me.
Yeah,
because I married somebody who wants a pool, and I don't because there's so much work.
Don't get a pool; they're terrible. And
it's
the only way you get a pool is if you can afford to have somebody clean it for you.
It's just like the amount of upkeep. And I have friends who have pools, and that's nonstop complaining.
Or you go with the disposable, and you just say, "We're buying this pool for this summer, and we're throwing it away at the end of the summer."
Which is not something I like. So let's do something else. Let's go visit an existing pool and pay to get into that pool and enjoy it for when we want to use it, and then be done for the day. Like
my understanding is, if you're going to do the pool, you do in ground first off, and then you do salt water.
Yes.
Because I've heard that's a lot less upkeep,
and but
I don't believe people when they tell me that. And they're like, no, I spend like 10 minutes in it a week. No, you don't.
The idea of having a pool and being the kind of person who can upkeep a pool is appealing. But I'm just not that person. And my husband isn't that guy either. You know, we have a hard time keeping our shower clean. So, you know, hey, maybe that's the thing. Let's keep these things clean consistently for several years to prove to ourselves that we can scrub stuff without being like, ew, my husband.
Here's an idea.
My husband won't even touch peanut butter on a plate. He'll just stand at the sink and spray it with hot water until it globs off because he doesn't want to touch it.
Why doesn't he use like a scrub brush or something?
I don't know.
Because then it gets in the scrub brush, don't you know?
Yes, it spreads.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But can you imagine him being the kind of guy that like after, you know, the fall and the winter and the spring comes and it's
cleans
time
the
to
scum out?
Yeah, he's not that dude.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. If he was, whoa, he just got real hot.
Oh, and that's the other thing. You got to close the pool. You got to open. Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
It's awful.
I have a question.
Okay.
It may be a little personal. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. Do you do what do you do with your hair in the shower?
What do you mean?
Well, my wife
wash it,
has like a ball of hair that grows, you know, in the shower. Does women's hair just fall out in the shower and you have to figure out what to do with it? Do you not have your wife's hair in your shower, Jonathan?
I've never had this conversation with her, but not rare. It's pretty rare that I see.
Am I wrong, Danae? Is that not a thing?
I mean, it's a thing in our house.
So what do you do with your hair? Like, how do you take care of the hair that comes out in the shower?
Here's what. Let me preface this by saying that I'm different now.
Okay.
But most of my life, I've had longer hair. So you shampoo your hair, and then you're kind of like, you're rinsing it all off, and then it's all like in
that's
your
what I've
fingers.
heard. Yeah, that's what Jen tells me.
It's got long hair that's just sort of. I mean, we shed hair. That's just we're human.
I'm just like, what is this ball of hair in the corner of the shower?
Then you kind of like take it off of your hands, and then rather than like jumping it down the drain, you set it aside.
Right, because you don't want to clog the drain.
And then you forget about it. That's the problem. So that's
maybe
the problem.
My wife just doesn't forget about it.
But my thing, your wife is great. But my thing is, I didn't make a ball. I would just put it up on the wall, and then it became art. And I'm not kidding, guys. You can think I'm disgusting. I apologize, but I used to like put it on there and then like move it around and make pictures.
Maybe it was you that was telling me in a podcast at one point that you did that.
Yes. The problem is that I would also then forget about it, and so then you just have this. You come back and you've got this like dried hair on your wall.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So get a pool. That's going to be so much better.
Yeah. Clear. Like I said, I am not the kind of person who can manage that kind of responsibility. I just learned in my adult life to throw my own hair away.
Nice. Very nice. All right. I also enjoyed, is this movie running for president? I thought that was a great line. Anything else that you guys wanted to throw in there about this video?
My favorites of all time, and I feel like I should eventually start making a list of, things that I enjoy. But my favorite of all time was that desk one. And I think now that I know that Jeremy wrote it, I wonder how he wrote it. Because, we'll submit like a script, but I wonder if he delivered it and then wrote it. I don't know. It's the way it's delivered is so it's so perfect and
but should it be a surprise that the person who writes best for the character
is Jeremy?
of
No,
the narrator
it isn't. But this is the first time I've literally when I'm watching this video, I'm just like, that's the best ever. And it's because he himself is so passionate about it.
I remember writing on Mary Poppins with him, and he has this bit about an overweight horse that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's just because the horse is so fat compared to all the other animals. And he just goes off for a paragraph about this fat horse. And that was the moment that you're having right now, I think, where you're like, oh, he taps into something that we almost don't have permission to tap into in some ways.
I feel like I have permission to do it.
Well, no, I know. Obviously, we have permission. I just mean
then it's
psychologically.
It's a fabricated moment for Jeremy, whereas this was a true Jeremy moment.
Right.
He himself experienced while he was watching this.
Right.
Let's just talk about all the stuff on this desk and then just how it's delivered, how it's written on the screen for those of us who like to read, but it goes on for quite some time. It's hilarious. I loved it. That one.
And those no evil statues are ridiculous.
It was
the way he's talking about one has two see no evils and hear no evils.
Because that's Michael Bay though. Like that, I mean, that desk is like probably Michael Bay's desk.
Who knows?
That dude is crazy. Like that dude attitude is so over excessive. It's not just the action scenes, it's everything.
So when he wrote the captain's desk thing, I said, man, that scene is my favorite ever. And he responded with, that desk is a prop master's fever dream. And I said somebody was very desperate to prove that they were spiritual, because that's kind of what it looks like. It reminds me of one of those stores in the mall. It's really bohemian. They just kind of went in and cleared a shelf and then stuck it on there.
Well, the Joey Pants character, the Joe Pantoliano, he plays the boss or their captain or whatever. And I mean, in all the movies, even the most recent one, that's always kind of his thing. Like, he's always drinking Pepto-Bismol and talking about how, they're driving him crazy and stressing him out. And so they just went over the top. I can just picture Michael Bay, like, in the back, like the set decorators, like, we good? Like, no, we need more incense. We need more incense. We need more monkeys.
The stuff that triggered me, just to kind of, I guess, transition to the other sins that sort of stood out. There's a sin, I think number 34. I took a screenshot. That's how I know.
Oh, nice.
Also, I can't tell if this scene is more offensive to women or mental health providers. Probably both. So let's tack on 25 for how icky this shit is. And I mean, that stuff was happening kind of throughout. Just the portrayal of the female form, and maybe that's Bay. I don't know. Maybe that's the late 90s, Bay. Early aughts. I don't know. But it's just, it's one of those things, and one of the reasons I'm kind of glad I haven't been really into movies and stuff, because that stuff just bothers me to no end.
You mean you don't find getting a blowjob in a therapist's office sexy and funny?
No.
That's God.
No,
I mean,
not at all. But I do find funny the joke number 125. I sure could go for an ice cold Coca-Cola right now as the Pepsi. That was also really fun.
No,
so.
as someone who loves action movies, though, that is not like a common thing. That is very much a Michael Bay thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there aren't other action movies that have issues, but I am saying, like, there are a lot of really good ones out there that don't have crap like that in them.
I just, super side note, totally random and completely unrelated.
What? From you?
My phone is so full. I have no storage. Nothing can happen on my phone anymore. It's so not functioning, I can't even delete a picture. When I go to delete a picture, the prompt is, there's not enough space in your internal storage.
How much storage do you have?
Space. Not enough, apparently.
Does Google not have like a cloud that you can?
Yeah, but she doesn't have a.
Anyway,
she's got a Samsung right now, which is an Android phone, but not technically.
Or well, that should have something too, shouldn't it?
I'm saying it's so full, I literally can't delete anything to free up space.
Yeah, it won't let you do it.
It's not even letting me function. So I've got work to do. I didn't know that was possible. Congratulations,
I didn't
myself.
Well done. Did you have anything else, Jonathan?
Yeah, I just I love the stuff where we do like the discount Mike. Like for this instance, it was discount Michael Shannon, but it was actually Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
I always find that funny when it's actually that person. It's just, and I had forgotten Michael Shannon was in this too. And then I loved the line, fucked in the ass by a synchronism. I think I'm going to use that in my regular life.
Of course you are. And there'll be many opportunities.
Yeah, just at the grocery store.
Right.
That'll be my, like we were talking about grammar things that get on our nerves. I'll use that term for somebody.
There you go.
And then the only other thing I had was Jeremy singing Will Smith's Miami, and it was almost like the way he sang it, it was kind of creepy, which made it even funnier.
No, I thought that was great delivery. And
this is a great video for a really, really shitty movie.
So with a couple recently, we've kept the words up, even though we've cut the singing a little bit short. And I edited this one, and I fought for leaving all of the singing in this one because it's so fun to me. Just the attitude he has with it, like it's just sultry. Yeah. It's like sultry narrator, and I was like, you don't get enough of a chance to hear sultry narrator.
Maybe I should have said sultry instead of creepy. That's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Let's go with sultry.
Let's do. Ready to move on to Dr. Dolittle?
Let's do it.
It's an Atkinson Hughes script.
That's me!
Chris and Danae writing on this one.
That's us!
What do you think of this Eddie Murphy movie? This kind of era where he was making silly, dumb comedies. Are we fans?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of am. It's weird. I fight with myself.
It's weird because I'm with you. It's got this nostalgic kick.
Yes.
For when you are watching a movie that makes no sense.
I know.
It makes no sense.
There are so many reasons not to enjoy Dr. Dolittle, Nutty Professor, Clumps, all these but there's something about Eddie Murphy that I have nostalgia for, and I just watch him in this stuff, and I just kind of smile and laugh.
I love Eddie Murphy, and I'm glad that he did. I'm glad Nutty Professor gave him like a second career, because right before Nutty Professor, he wasn't doing well. Like his movies weren't doing well, and Nutty Professor is funny, the first one.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the stuff that came after that. And I know this movie's harmless, and I know it's cute, and people are going to say, you're being mean, but I cannot stand this movie.
Ooh.
Like, I really hate this movie.
Feel the rage.
There's nothing about this movie that works for me, even as much as I love Eddie Murphy.
The Sith Lord Jonathan.
Is it maybe because you love Eddie Murphy? Like something like this?
Maybe. Well, you understand, I grew up, I watched a lot of his movies as they came out, even though I was young. So, like, I saw 48 Hours and Beverly Hills Cop, and that was the Eddie Murphy I grew up on. So when he transferred to, like, the more family-friendly Eddie Murphy, I'm fine with that. You can make good family-friendly comedies. I mean, I think Nutty Professor is a great example of that. But I just don't think this is. This just is, like, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't, like Danae said, it doesn't make sense. I think it's kind of talking down to the audience half the time.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy doesn't even seem like he's really given a performance. Like he's just kind of running through the motions. I don't know.
No, I totally get it.
It's terrible. It's a terrible movie.
The voice work is bad. Like Chris Rock and Norm Macdonald and
it's awful. It's really awful. But there's something in me that just.
But why? Why do we like it?
I don't know. I wouldn't even say I like it. I get enjoyment from it.
There's something that's like
that's awesome.
A reminder. This is a reminder that there are movies that don't have a solid flow, and you just forget to ask questions about it, and you just sit there and you kind of accept what you're seeing, and you don't care. And there's something about that I miss.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, look at this carefree movie that really doesn't make a lot of sense.
I've brought up Six Underground once, and I guess I'll bring it up here again because it's a similar thing with that movie. I know objectively that's a terrible film, but I don't care. Like, I'm just, for whatever reason, you're right. You just give yourself to it, right? And you just be like, okay, do whatever you're going to do. I'm going to, I hate the phrase turn off my brain.
I absolutely get that. I have movies like that. No, I totally get what you're saying.
So, and I think that's great. I think there's something very human about that a bit. There's almost a grace to it, right? It's almost like there's, in the way we treat other people sometimes, we can go objectively, I don't like the things that you've done or whatever, but I'm gonna just not think about that. I'm gonna forgive that, and we're gonna go from here, and you know what I mean? Like there's almost a weird grace that we can have with movies too, where it's like, I get you're an awful movie, but I'm gonna sit here and enjoy this. I don't know.
I also think one of the things I like about it too is that it's just so childlike.
Yeah,
there's a childishness. Yeah. Not that's kind of negative, but like just there's
you're right.
There's a youth to it.
Yeah,
where it's just silly and cute, and you can see where it would be fun to watch as a kid, and that's something else I'm attracted to. I think is it doesn't have a lot of depth because it doesn't necessarily need a lot of depth for it to just entertain, and obviously it was very successful in its entertainment. I didn't realize. I mean, it made bank. So. Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of problematic as an adult though, right? Like the fact that and you guys talk about this in The Sins, but like the fact that he won't just like show his wife what he's doing.
Yeah, no.
Like that's very like sitcom-esque and never makes sense to me. Like it's like if you would just show her, like you could totally show her. It would take you just a few minutes.
It would, yeah, and that's something I think maybe there's going to be a barrier for me as a writer, like something that I'm just going to have to break kind of through somehow, and that is whenever there's a children's movie in front of me, I'm like a kid,
a child,
and I can't think critically as easily as I can in other. This happened with Addams Family. This script for me was super hard.
Really?
Yeah, and same with Addams Family. Like I really struggled with those because I'm just like, I don't know.
Because you just forgive it. You're like, it's a kid's movie. I just forgive it.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to turn that off and just be like, no. I'm going to look at you as a serious piece of art.
Yeah. And then and then both of those I actually worked with Chris, and then to read his script, and it's just like, oh shit. Like there's so much more here to ask questions about and to realize is going on. And so I learned from Addams Family a lot about, I had that question about the lawn. Why didn't I have, I could have just written that down and that works. And here it's a lot of I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but he actually kind of worded it perfectly. So I'll read what Chris said.
Yeah.
He said, "What a weird relic Dr. Dolittle is. It came out in 98, right after Eddie Murphy made his semi-comeback with The Nutty Professor, which Jonathan just talked about. And he started doing these family-friendly films at the time. He says, I don't remember watching it back then and thinking, what a weird movie, but that's what happens over time. Watching it now, it was crazy seeing how all over the place the movie is. It felt gutted, like scenes are missing, but then there's so much filler. And I guess this is par for the course, but the movie does everything it can to allow a medical doctor to be a veterinarian and whatever else he wants to be just because he can talk to animals. So not a hard movie to sin at all for him. It's just a bizarre flick.
Right.
So there was this part that is like, he's putting his finger on what the movie is doing. It's saying because he can talk to doctors, he's the superhero person.
Talk to animals.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Although talking to doctors is a skill as well.
It is. Because he can do that, it just like forgives so much else. And I also couldn't put my finger on like why is it just moves from one thing to the next without really anything connecting it.
Not a lot of cohesion in this
movie. And to
movie.
me, I'm like, oh, this is just the way that it's filmed. But to him, he's like, this is not how, this is dumb.
This is a mess.
This is a mess. And so now, after reading his script and then thinking about what I watched, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was experiencing. I just didn't understand what it was.
Yeah. Well, you're learning a lot too, as the resident
it's hard
non-movie watcher. You're kind of going to film school in some ways.
I'm kidding. No, it's hard. It's hard because, and I have to kind of play to my strengths and just present the things that I see and not freak out when these types of things happen. But for me, Dr. Dolittle was difficult. And for Chris, it came really easily. So in this one, it was one of those where when we're doing the combine, it's heavy on Chris and sprinkled with my stuff, which is totally fine. I'm glad to be able to contribute something, of interest. But it was an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah.
I had the things that stood out to me that were like frustrating to me is more like storyline wise. So like, for example, he seems to be kind of a family man. He doesn't want to be called into work at odd hours unnecessarily because he wants to spend time with his family. But then like the kids are saying these statements like dad's far away, but they don't really like play into that. And then like he's happy and jovial and kind of joking a lot, but I think they're trying to say he's not a family man. But to me, it seems like he is a family man. So that was the kind of stuff. And that's hard to sin, right? That's not as easy to sin as this scene is, jumping from moment to moment, because you have to sort of create examples of him having this conflict. So it was more of a feeling of the show that I really didn't like.
I did love that bit though about the part where he says his daughter is becoming a wise ass and his wife says, where do you think she gets that from? And then you guys rightfully pointed out, well, Eddie Murphy is a wise ass, but Dr. Dolittle is like the farthest thing from that.
Yeah. That
character that doesn't actually fit the character, it fits the actor.
And then it's like, but he's supposed to be an ass. I mean, look how he's treating his child's guinea pig. Like he's gonna kill it. He's gonna kill the guinea pig. He's gonna put paper on it. Which, by the way, I'll talk about in keeping tabs. There are all this stuff that he's doing that's kind of dark and twisted for someone who's a doctor. Some other things I found that were really confusing that we definitely touched on, and Chris's perspective was more solid and kind of easier to follow, and so his is kind of really in there. The way he speaks to animals is really confusing because after watching it 2-3 times, it's like sometimes he'll like bark and that's communicating with an animal, but then you never know from moment to moment if he's supposed to be squeaking or barking or mooing or braying or whatever he's supposed to be doing, because he's not actually doing it. He's speaking English, so it was really weird. But when he interprets for the dog whenever he's at the vet, that's even more confusing because the dogs are supposed to understand humans. So the entire time in this show, and I did get to kind of put my perspective in there in the script, it seems to not be following its own rules that it sets, but it took me 3 watches to kind of understand that, because there's these different references for how his like universe works. So anyway,
I can't imagine having to watch this movie 3 times in a row.
It's a lot. I
wanted to mention cotton candy without the sugar just because I feel like that is such a perfect description of a movie like this, that it feels like cotton candy. And we've already talked a little bit about how, oh, this is just dumb fun, cotton candy. But when you really think about it, it's like, there actually isn't even the sweet taste, that the cotton candy.
Well, yeah, and it just dissolves in your mouth really quickly when you start to think about it.
Yeah. So I thought that was really good. What about you, Jonathan?
I just mostly had written down the stuff, just everything, and Danae touched on this, just about how the animals communicating really worked, because like in the vet office, you had all those animals that clearly knew why they were there.
Yeah.
It's almost
so it's
as
like if they're already understanding humans, then why are they so shocked that they can understand him? Yeah. It was just stuff like that. I loved how the video just kept tackling all that, because that was probably the most problematic part of the movie.
Yeah.
I also think it's just a weird movie too, because it's been a while since I've watched it all the way through, but the tiger is like the Albert Brooks tiger, like he's like depressed, right? Like he's thinking about committing suicide.
Yeah, your first introduction is that the tiger is at the very top of a tower about to leap to its death. And there was something that I kind of wanted to do where, movies joke about suicide, and this one definitely does that. There's even animals at the bottom of the tower egging him on. It was really
another
uncomfortable.
correlation to Bad Boys 2. I think both movies don't deal with mental health very well.
No. And the whole tiger thing is just what a mess that whole thing is. We don't have the ability to feel things in our brain, so the tiger wouldn't have been able to say, yeah, there it is. There's just like this whole, and the whole like surgery thing, and it's just that whole thing was just absolutely
well, I'm just curious what you guys think about that, because there's been a lot of movies, especially like movies with like criminals and stuff, where they'll go to a vet to get like a bullet removed.
Sure, yeah.
But this does seem like crazier than that, because I guess, the idea that he would know animal physiology, I think that the tiger, at least, he's, you would assume tigers have general brain in the same area we do, but where he resuscitates the rat.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it was very confusing.
It's almost like, and I've also seen the Robert Downey Jr. Dolittle that just recently came out, and I have the same feelings about that movie in this regard of the communication and the different things. It's almost as if a movie like this needs to make up its mind about, is it magic or not magic? Like, if it's magic, if it's just this magic thing where he hears what animals are saying even when they're barking, then you don't have to worry about him barking back or whatever. It's just magic communication. You know what I mean? Like, so I think a lot of times movies don't actually take the time to think, okay, is it just going to be unexplained magic, or are we actually going to try to explain this?
Right.
Because once you try to explain it, you got to live up to that, right? And I think movies oftentimes should just be, let's just not explain it, and it's just magic, and then we're all good, right? Like, we can just go along and suspend our disbelief. But yeah, the Dolittle movies seem to kind of want it both ways sometimes.
My understanding is that the Eddie Murphy Dolittle is miles ahead of the Robert Downey Jr. Dolittle.
I hated the
That's
Robert
my
Downey
understanding.
Jr. Yeah, this is 2 movies I've said I hated in this
Wow.
episode. I did not. I have very little patience for a movie that attempts mediocre and doesn't succeed. Like, it's it's not even going for anything. It's not even taking a swing. It's just blah mediocrity, and it's not even good at that.
But did
That's
the
so
animals
sad too. You
emote?
got Robert Downey Jr. making his first like non-Marvel movie in however many years, and that's unfortunate.
Did in the new Dolittle, did the animals emote?
Oh, sure, of course.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I was really surprised, actually.
I heard they fart a lot.
They do. There's lots of farts.
Oh my god, there's
Yes.
lots of butt jokes in this
So
one.
it's like The Lighthouse.
Literally, the climax of the film is a giant dragon fart. It is literally.
I've had that spoiled, and I'm okay with that, because I'm so glad I know that
It is
happens.
literally the crux of the plot. Okay, so
When
Well,
does
in this one,
take
it was
place?
in this one, it was the rat that had to fart. It was
Yeah.
it wasn't like dying from like heart failure. It just had bad gas and kind of passed out
Gas.
there
Had, like,
for a minute.
Yeah.
I was impressed with some of the animatronics, though. It's kind of fun to look back and see how movies like this were made. There was obviously CGI stuff happening, but there's also some animatronic stuff happening in this. The tiger, the most obvious one is the tiger surgery and stuff at the very end. That was all, animatronic.
Yeah.
But there was so much emoting happening from these animals, and having just come off of talking about Lion King, I was really excited to see also in the comments that people were like, there's more emotion happening in this one than there was with Lion King.
Yeah, right.
And that was true. I actually had that thought while I was watching it. And some of the animal stuff for me was actually kind of fun and silly and goofy, especially the apartment stuff. Like you put your like little kid head on and like you're like, oh, it's so funny, all these animals showing up in the apartment and
maybe
being silly.
Maybe I should say that about the new one too. If you're 5 to 11, maybe you can have a great time with it. I think that's important for me to say because it definitely has that vibe, of a child may, enjoy.
Yeah,
this.
my daughter who's 8, she really wants to see it, and I'm trying to, just based on what I've heard about it, I'm trying to figure out if it's okay for me just to leave her in the theater by herself while I go play video games.
There you
or
go.
Something.
There you go. Before we go on, I had a couple more things that while writing this one, I learned about censoring the word dick.
Oh.
And I didn't know this, so I thought this was kind of a fun behind-the-scenes thing.
Well, and this isn't just this is common standards and practices.
I didn't know this.
Right? No. So yeah,
it's not common and standard in the real world.
No, it is. It really is.
No,
for TV shows. Yeah. No. Totally.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like in real life.
Oh, in real life. I see what you're saying. Like your day-to-day conversation.
Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I have to think about these things and how to censor stuff.
Right.
You can censor dick when it's a body part, but don't censor dick as an insult.
Right.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like in this particular one, there was both of these moments. And so I'm like, well, we censored this over here. So are we censoring it here? And then I had to learn the context.
Right. If you're talking about a genital,
a body part,
if you're talking about a genital, then you censor it.
If it's explicit, like you don't have to censor the word boob or tit.
Right.
But you have to censor other words.
It's really male and female organs, I would say.
Or is it just reproductive then?
Yeah, it's just genital.
Reproductive organs.
Genital
I
only.
should specify.
Don't have to censor toes.
Nope.
I just don't like saying the P word. I'm sorry.
I don't either. You'll notice that.
You mean penis?
No, I do not. You don't have to censor penis. No, and in fact, when Danae made that comment, because I was helping with the edit, I noted back, "Don't be a dick, Danae."
Yeah.
And no, I didn't really, but
no, you did.
I should have.
You still have time.
All right, let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to tell a story from putting together the week's content, maybe a Google search, some strange research we did, a deleted sin.
I have 3.
Danae has 3 of them.
3 things you looked up?
The 3 represents the 3-hour show that we're going to be doing today.
I'll make it quick. All
right. Well, why don't you start since you've got 3? Do you want to do all 3 in a row?
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
All from Dolittle.
Go ahead and...
I searched about egg sizes because she has this massive egg and I wanted to kind of have an understanding of that. That egg was definitely not an alligator. Alligator eggs are about the size of chicken eggs.
Yeah.
The one that she had was basically like a dinosaur.
Like an ostrich.
Oh, that was at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of wanted to reference when it hatches that it had to be that big because of the animatronics that obviously had to like be there. But the point was made just fine as is. But I looked up egg sizes and I didn't realize alligator eggs were that tiny.
You know where eggs come from?
I have them.
A cloaca. That's where the
I have
the
a
eggs...
cloaca?
No, you don't.
Shoot.
Your eggs don't come out, Danae. You don't actually
true.
lay your eggs.
I don't.
Your eggs stay inside.
Excrete
and
them.
they wait for a partner to come along.
Yes, please. Let's explain this right now. Do you mean to do all 3 of mine or just one?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Puke them out.
The other one was making sure that I did remember correctly how horses see, because that really bothered me in Dr.
Tell
Dolittle.
me about this.
They have a blind spot in the front, and I used to ride horses for a brief time. My mom and my dad scraped together money so I could take horse lessons because I loved horses. And so I would go, I think I went for about 3 months, and I just learned a lot at that time. And one of them is that, like, if you stand directly in front of a horse, that's their blind spot. Their eyes are like on the side of their head.
Yeah.
And they have insane vision. Like, it's super
Which
cool.
is why you have to put blinders on them if you want to keep them focused on going straight, because they can see everything around them.
Yeah, their field of vision is like out to the side of, like, kind of a little to the front and the side and all the way around their bodies.
Yeah, which is why you don't stand behind a horse.
Don't stand behind a horse.
Yeah, FYI, I am terrified of horses.
I love them.
I've never had anything happen to me, but they're just, I don't know, creatures
they're
that
huge.
It's the way they look at you, like they're thinking about whether or not they should kick you in the face.
That might be you, Jonathan. That might just be you.
The way that they
I
look
don't know.
at you.
I didn't even realize it either until as a kid, I never was around them, but my father-in-law, has them on his farm. And so when I started dating my wife, I realized I did not like getting around them. I was like, oh, I guess I'm scared of horses on top of the other 100 things I'm scared of. Great.
Their peripheral vision is incredibly impressive. I just wanted to make sure that I understood it, because when he put those glasses on, this is their field of vision.
Oh, yeah, that's impressive.
Huge. Yeah, but they don't see directly in front of them. So when you're putting these glasses on the nose of the horse to affect its eye vision,
you're not correcting the right part of the vision. Yeah.
So I kind of got to focus on that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't understand, because even though the glasses are on the eyes,
their vision still comes out
to the side.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it would actually have to be, they'd have to be like headphones almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
They need to go over the eyes, which means that they need to come around a little bit more so that it would affect the whole field of vision. I mean, technically, maybe there's a little bit of overlap from the weird magnifying glass glasses that he made, but, the point was made.
Nice.
I had fun on that one.
And furthermore, you guys still also pointed out, how did he even get to Dr. Dolittle's apartment?
How did he get there? How did anyone get there?
How does anyone get anywhere?
Then the other one that I looked up was tragic, and this is the one that was in the sin. Kids just don't. But the whole sticky paper thing, I shouldn't have Googled it. I did. It's a terrible, terrible death for creatures.
Yeah.
To have literally just ripped apart. It's awful. So what a terrible way to die.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sticky paper for rodents basically means that they stick to the paper, and to get themselves free, they'll either break their body to get out, they'll rip their skin off,
They'll chew their legs off,
or they'll just starve to death forever. So,
do you think? I'm asking you genuinely as an animal lover. Do you think a quick rat trap is more humane if you're the kind of person that is going to kill the rodents in your house?
I always did traps. Right? We had a mouse problem at our older house, and
because a lot of people, because what I understand is the glue traps are supposedly more humane because you can release them.
No, because
if you
can't rip them off.
Right? Yeah.
Even if you go to rip them off, you're still ripping off their.
I think there may be humane.
You would have to get one of those. They have those plastic house traps, basically.
Yeah,
I think there are more humane glue traps that dissolve in water.
That'd be nice, where you have to bathe them before setting them free.
I don't know.
Give them a nice little spa day and then set them on their way.
I would think
or it's like those,
I would think either a straight trap or poison.
Or it's like those command strips where you just have to pull a tab a specific way and it releases.
Right, it just releases the rat. See, I think there are more humane traps, but yeah.
Anyway, it was disturbing. I was sad.
Yeah. Well, on that note, Jonathan, what did you have in keeping tabs this week?
I looked up Canadian laws.
Of course, everybody needs to know Canadian laws.
This was obviously when I was working on Schitt's Creek. I was just, and I didn't even think about it being in Canada. So, my first script, Danae had to keep correcting me because I had IRS instead of CRA and stuff like that. So then I was when I was thinking about other things to talk about, I looked up Canadian laws to see if I could do anything with that, and I didn't. But I did find a lot of interesting laws. One is because of some old bootlegging law that they've never taken off the books. I mean, and at least on this site that I read this, you can't take alcohol between provinces. It's illegal to do that. Apparently you can now. They've lessened it a little bit to where I think you can do wine. I'm sure there's going to be people from Canada. They're like, you're an idiot. This is old. But
well, it's kind of like
I read.
It's kind of like what we're dealing with marijuana in America right now, right? Where there are states where it's legal, and yet federally it's still technically a crime. So yeah, trying to figure that stuff out in the process.
Yeah, so you can't drive it across state lines or take it on a plane or and then some more interesting ones. These are specific to certain cities, so this isn't all over Canada, and I didn't write all the cities down, but there was one where you can't build a snowman higher than 30 inches.
Of course not. I mean, once you get up to 32, 34 inches, those snowmen are just dangerous. Yep. Yeah. I mean, think of the size carrot you would have to use for the nose. I mean, alone, that would
imagine having that much snow to where you could build a snowman that big. Jesus. Yeah. You can't paint your garage purple. That was one of the cities.
I like that. Purple garages are a bad idea.
That would be ugly. Who'd want to paint their garage purple? Can't climb a tree. That was one of them. There's a limit to how much change can be used in a purchase. I believe in this specific town, it was $25.
That's a great law. I love that law.
Really?
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's great. It's like we're tired of your stuff. All right, just bring cash. Okay, we're sick.
I agree. Who would pay for something that's $25 and change? Deserve whatever. You deserve to go to jail. In London, Ontario, I'll just do these last two. In London, Ontario, if your grass gets to be more than 8 inches, the city will cut it. and then send you the bill.
Oh, that happens here. I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
So
depending on how much they charge you, I might just let them do it.
They sent us a notice. They sent us a notice that our lawn was getting too long, and so we cut the front yard, not thinking they were talking about our fenced-in backyard that nobody can see. And apparently, they come and peep over your privacy fences.
Was that a city thing, or is that HOA?
Yeah.
No, it was a city thing.
Oh, yeah. See, we have an HOA, so in our neighborhood.
Didn't they say you were going to be arrested?
My wife went to court because it was in her name. Like, for whatever reason, she was the one. So, yeah, we had to go to court. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was very interesting.
It was a bad day.
The last one, that sounds awful. God, man. You would think you'd have, like, there's real crimes happening.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's not in Missouri. Maybe I need to move to Missouri. In Petrolia, Ontario, this is the last one I'll do. Petrolia is how I'm pronouncing it. That might be wrong. It is illegal to whistle between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Yeah. Don't you whistle overnight?
Outside?
Oh, yeah. And then there's also a bagpipe bylaw. They're apparently really weird about bagpipes. Like, if other instruments are being played, you can't play the bagpipe. And it was a whole thing. It was weird.
We have a bagpiper in our neighborhood, or we did.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I researched what estrogen does. For the
of course you did,
for the triple threat or whatever, and it was fascinating. I love doing it because I apparently I'm not heavy in estrogen, and so I'm more a testosterone creature. But it was fascinating to see kind of the specific different things that it does, and also here's the other thing. Now that we have a female writer, I kind of like to pretend that I'm her. And like, what would Danae write about this?
Oh my God,
kind of thing.
Are you still in the same room with him? Do you need to leave?
I need a safe word.
Does he have like one of your dresses in the closet or something?
Safe word.
But I found it fascinating because as you do research on hormones and kind of how they impact the body and different things like that, and I mentioned them in the sin, the idea of sore breasts and tearing out your insides once a month and that kind of thing.
My favorite.
There's also a real kind of scientific understanding you come to about how, and again, I don't mean to take this too deep, but we're having a big gender conversation in our culture right now. The idea of gender and what it means, and non-binary, and the idea of people self-gendering and how we gender pronouns and all this kind of stuff. And you just start to realize how many different scientific ways we determine gender. We talk about estrogen and testosterone, and we think that means male and female, but it doesn't. There are certainly many females with higher testosterone levels and males with higher estrogen levels. We think maybe it has to do with what genitals you're born with, but people are born with, both genitals sometimes. People are born with and misidentified by their genitals a lot of times. Like, it's becoming more and more fascinating to me that we would think there is, an ultimate way to separate people by gender when the more you look at it scientifically, and I don't know, the more I kind of studied into the hormonal stuff, even especially, I was just like, I think it's completely appropriate to understand gender as a construct. It is something that we put on people, and the idea of what it means to be a man or a woman is really, it's more nebulous than a lot of people would consider it. And I think that's valuable to kind of continue to look into that. So I don't know. Again, I don't mean to take it deep or any kind of political or anything, but I just think it's so valuable to kind of have those conversations. So I just kind of want to talk about that as I looked into the
That's really interesting.
Good for you. I mean, that's something that not everybody even wants to look at because they don't know how to perceive it.
Well, very obviously the science the very simple science we've done in the past is, oh, look, a penis, that's a man, kind of thing. But it's deeper than that. It's more interesting than that. That's what I like. It's more fascinating than we think it is. And for me, that's the exploration. And gender politics, all those kind of things, those are conversations certainly worth having. But I think you have to come from a place of humility to say the cut and dry aspect of it isn't, everything that our primitive minds have made it to be. So, yeah.
By the way, I didn't watch it last night. I did record it because I was curious to see it, but I just read about it. The 911 spinoff, the one that's taking place in Texas with Rob Lowe. Did you see that where one of the firefighters is a transgender character? The character is transgender?
No, I haven't seen that, no.
And it's actually played by a trans actor, Mariah Michael Smith, but I don't even know. I was trying to think. I know other shows have done it on cable, but I don't know if a network show has ever done that.
That's a good point.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, was going to say, I there have been many trans characters that I've seen recently in stuff. In fact, my Beyond the Sins. There's a prominent trans character in the show that I'm going to be talking about. And yeah, I think it's just becoming more and more aware of people's stories and the authenticity of their perspective. And the more we can have the humility to be open to that, I think the better off we're going to be as a culture.
Same.
Well, even the first 911 show has there's a lot of different types of people involved in the main cast. Like there's an Asian character, there's a gay female who's also African American, and so and I also more diversive.
And it's also coming right after who Billy Porter is.
Yes,
after a conversation.
Is that Pose?
Oh, I don't know the show he's on, but he talked to me about masculinity and kind of how that impacted his childhood and what people's definition of masculinity was, and he likes to wear dresses and get butterfly tattoos, and it messed up his psychology of understanding, well, because I'm quote unquote a man, or what that means, what does masculinity mean? And I just think it's so important for us to have the ability to have open conversations about it. So,
and he is on Pose, which is also a Ryan Murphy show, just like 911. So I guess Ryan Murphy is really trying to, and Ryan Murphy's done a lot of interesting things even on Aaron's favorite show, American Horror Story. So good.
World where we don't even have to talk about labeling anything anyway.
Right. And that's kind of, it's
important to talk about, and it's important to keep at the forefront.
So, yeah, I thought that was interesting as I researched that. So, ready to move on to the comment section?
Let's do it.
What do you mean comments? That's weird. We never do this.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're each going to take a look at one comment and one comment only from this week's videos.
I have 6. No, I'm kidding.
Oh no, Danae's turning her computer. Oh my goodness, Danae.
You should have talked about them in the video discussion.
I know, right?
We really are going to have a 3-hour show. All right, let's take a look at the comments, and I'll kick us off. I had one, and I even forget which video this is because it doesn't reference the video specifically. It says, is it nitpicking that nitpicking is spelled nitpicking and not nit space picking? And the answer is yes, and it's glorious, and thank you. I love that. I did some research on the word, nitpicking, which, yes, is a one-word thing now. It is nitpicking, one word. And it means, as far as definition goes, the state, to engage in fussy or pedantic fault finding. And is there a better definition of what we do at CinemaSins than fussy or pedantic fault finding? So I love that definition. And then, of course, the reason it started as 2 words is because it literally meant picking nits, like the idea of what monkeys do to each other when they groom. They would pick little bugs off each other, the nits, which are basically kind of how hair gets cemented to each other. Like if you've ever
delicious.
I forget what we called them in school, but somebody would come up to you and they'd rub your arm hair around in circles until it got all,
Indian rug burn.
Oh, yeah, of course it has some sort of racial, kind of thing. But
of course it does.
But anyways, those are nits, like when the hair gets all matted. And so, monkeys, as they're picking bugs out, will also pick nits out. And so anyways.
And then we ball those up in the side of the shower and we forget about them.
That's right. Of course we do.
Hey, Danae, I think Aaron took about the amount of time for like 3 comments, so I think you're good.
How dare you? How
you.
dare you?
Thank you.
I took exactly 1 minute and 42 seconds. I have a timer in front of me.
Oh, snap.
Jonathan, why don't
really
you go next?
Which one am I going to pick? I'm going to do this one from Dr. Dolittle. Jay Kirby said, "You've never seen 2 rats standing on their hind legs," and a few people commented on this.
Yeah,
by the way.
they did.
Fighting on top of a garbage can. Apparently, you've never walked the streets of New York City at night. Maybe, but what I want you to do is I want you to send pictures or videos to Aaron, because I don't want to see them, but I want you to send those to Aaron Dicer and prove that that's a thing, because I do not believe you.
No. I am game. Listen, I completely open up the behind the sins at cinemasins.com email to whatever crazy photos you want to send my way of rats fighting on their hind legs.
Insane.
That's what it's for. Proof. Photo proof. Pixar It Didn't Happen. That's the new. Can we just have Pixar It Didn't Happen at cinemasins.com?
There you go.
Actually, yes, I can set that up for you if you really want that.
We should. Oh, that's asking for a lot of interesting things to happen.
All right, Danae, what do you got?
Mine is actually from Schitt's Creek, and this is the comment from Schitt's Creek. For now on, I don't know why it's for now on, but for now on, let's just start with the first episode of everything. I still want to know what moron told Jeremy to watch season 2 of My Hero Academia and not episode 1. Then it is 104 likes at the time that I took a screenshot, and then over 10 replies of people having a conversation about not only that we're still talking about this a week later, but just all that you can imagine. One of the ones that I liked in that is he hates dialogue in general, so asking him to send any anime is a landmine in the making, no matter what episode you ask him to start on.
I think in fairness, the pilot sitting probably would have been very similar, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it was just really funny that a week later there's still a conversation about that. And that so when I showed you my screen, it wasn't that many comments. It was was the comment chain after that one particular. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that's all I have.
What?
Yeah.
Well, you just showed me a whole page of stuff.
That was the one comment, and then all of the responses.
I see.
I trolled you.
You did.
I made you get all upset for no reason, and I didn't tell you about it until now.
Real quick, we also got called out a little bit for the dependence thing. Yeah, we looked that up. So
dependence over 22 thing or whatever?
In Canada, that's the law.
Yeah, so. that's a Canadian thing, not an American thing.
Yeah, guys, calm down.
Which American's not that much different, although it is crazy though. It goes up to like 27, like if you're still in college and stuff, which is insane.
Listen, if you're upset about it, I just have one thing to say: blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
I'm more worried about you with 4 boys that could live off you till they're 27.
Well, as long as we get to claim them on our taxes.
That's true. Well, that's true.
All right. All right, let's talk about the question of the week. This came from Carson via email. Again, you can get your questions into us at behindthesins@cinemasins.com or behindthesinspod@gmail.com. Either of those work. And Carson sent a list of questions, and I picked this one out. I really like it. It says, are there any plans, serious or just hopeful, for a mass media release piece of entertainment from anyone on the team? Writing on a TV show, making a movie, writing songs for an actual release album, combining sins into a book. Not to downplay it, but I'm not including the Ables or its sequels just because we already know about those. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. On the Sins team, how else do we create in our day-to-day world, like other mass media consumed kind of stuff? Jonathan, why don't you start?
I mean, so is this like, are we if we have any plans or anything?
Yeah, just like, do you write stuff other than, the Sin script? How do you like to create? Have you, where do you find creative outlets outside of CinemaSins?
Well, one thing I do that's kind of silly is I love making lists. I just love it. So I a lot of the times, like, I'll be watching a show or something and I'll have my laptop in front of me and I'll just be like creating like new letterbox lists and things like that and going through. And I mean, I don't know if that's really a creative outlet, but it's just a way I just keep my mind going. As far as like hopeful, I really want to write a mystery novel. Yeah. Oh my God, I want to write a mystery novel so bad. Finding the time to do that is a whole other thing.
Yeah, and that's where it kind of comes down to for me too. And time is an interesting thing because I've been proven wrong over and over again. Mm-hmm. We have time to do the things we want to do. Like, we find ways to find time. Like, if I say I don't have time to do this creative thing I want to do, you could point at my life and go, yes, but you just binged 2 seasons of this show. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, so we are blessed, most of us, with actual time to be able to do stuff. It doesn't feel like it because we also work hard, and we're working a lot and working hard. So it doesn't feel like we actually have time. And maybe if you think of work-life balance, we don't have time because you need that downtime to energize you for the creative time.
I guess that's a better way of putting it. Time with your family and just time to yourself.
Work-life balance is a huge thing, and so I don't, but at the end of the day, if somebody says you actually do have time to do this, you're probably right. If I wanted to get my work-life balance out of balance and actually always work, like literally all my waking hours work, then yeah. But it's kind of finding that.
But I am hoping that's becomes less hopeful over like the next year, and a little more like something that I actually create. I don't know. I mean, I'm very inspired by what Jeremy's done. I mean, Jeremy's writing novels, and he works just as much, if not harder, than we do. So clearly, it can be done.
Yep, absolutely.
And I would love to do that. I also have a few nonfiction ideas about like certain like TV shows or something like that. But that would definitely be something where I would have to have something in place where somebody wanted to pay me to do that, because the nonfiction work takes a lot more of research and things on that line. And so if it wasn't something that I thought could actually, because if you write a fictional book, I think that's, even if you don't sell it, it's still like something you accomplished.
Yeah.
I think the nonfiction route would have to be more, I'd have to pitch it to somebody and see if I could get funding.
Yeah.
So,
what about you, Danae?
I am excited that this job is honing a writing skill for me, because I've always wanted to write a book. I don't have plans, but I mean, Aaron, you can attest to this. I have stories all the time.
You've got a great fantasy story idea.
I have a sci-fi fantasy story idea that I pretty much, I try to get it out of my head and kind of write down the bullet points, because I suffer from instantly like jettison ideas.
Some people call it ADD,
things.
but yeah.
I don't think it's ADD.
It's not, but I mean, that's kind of the general vernacular of the idea.
The thing that I do is I'm like, okay, well, I'll just stop thinking about this now. And then I forget that the way that I'm built is it just means I will probably forget it forever, which super sucks.
I've told you your own ideas and you've been shocked by them before. Like I have come to you and said, you remember when you had this idea for this thing? And you're like, oh, that's a great idea. And that's your idea.
You should be writing those then if she's forgetting them. I mean, come on.
So I
should just steal them.
I don't have
there you go.
I don't have a lot of experience. I'm gaining it now in what it means to sit down and write and focus. And so I wonder if that's part of my trajectory in the future, is to sort of have more confidence to do that, because, you're right. It is, you spend time doing what you want to do. So I would love to be able to say that I've written a book at some point in time. That'd be really fun for me. Even if it's not like one that everybody on the planet knows about, because it's like one of the big ones, just to kind of like get a story out.
Yeah, just to get it outside you. Yeah.
And also, there's something that's starting to develop in my more like consistent life with my daughter, where she likes for me to tell her stories. And so at nighttime, I make something up, and it's usually something very simple. There was one recently that she was really excited about. It was actually the first one I ever told her, about how she, a little girl had 2 dogs and they turned into butterflies, and she jumped on their back and went on an adventure, and they flew in the sky. And then she realized that she missed her mom, and so she came back home, and her mom was happy to see her and said, if you decide to go on another adventure, just tell me before you leave. And then they had, milk and cookies and went to sleep, or something sweet like that. It kind of ended this. And her eyes, as I was telling the story, and then also at the very end, she goes, wow, that was a really good story. And so I just thought how cute it could potentially be to just write simple stories like that, and for kids. But there's, why comes to mind when there's so many good ones out there, but also why not? We're just in the age where anyone can write and self-publish. I did at one point in time think about doing an album, although I have self-recorded some songs that I've written. And I did wonder if at one point in time I would ever want to pursue something. I've done, sang in front of people and done like little mini concerts around my own town and stuff like that. But I don't think I'm built to focus on one thing. It's just not who I am.
Yeah,
so.
and that's part of it too. Part of the pain of being a creative person that has a lot of ideas is laying them down, right? Is like having this, and in your mind, this could be something interesting. Danae and I have had creative ideas together of, I still think are great ideas, like the idea of the Furfur and Varky show, like the idea of, our personalities, mine and captured in an aardvark, hers in a wildcat. And the aardvark is a pet in a pet store who never gets sold, because who wants an aardvark, right? And this wildcat sneaks into the store to have conversations with the aardvark, and that we would record these 5-minute conversations, philosophical, deep conversations about stuff as an aardvark and a cat, and then somebody would animate it. Like, I think that's a fun idea, right? Like, that's
for sure.
The Furfur and Varky show.
Yeah, exactly. But
hey, Danae, would your album sound anything like those noises you were making?
It would if I recorded it now.
Yeah,
if I recorded it now, yes, that's what it would sound like.
Yeah, I want that absolutely. At least 10 tracks of that. But and Aaron, and you and I don't know if you're going to talk about that, but you and Jeremy actually had that really cool podcast idea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. And there are podcast ideas that we've had. Like Jeremy and I have talked about doing a podcast idea because we basically have the exact same upbringing. Both of our dads were pastors in the same small denomination and in the Midwest, and we're the exact same. I mean, we're literally like a week apart from each other as far as when we were born. So we've experienced the world in much the same way. And we've kind of both but we've had separate journeys from that point with our faith. And so to have a podcast about faith, from the two of us from our different perspectives was, another one that we've thought of. And really the Furfur and Varky show was also kind of philosophically based on how Danae and I are different as well.
Sorry,
are you
that
okay?
name is great.
So, and we actually have a picture of Furfur and Varky in the studio.
Yeah,
somebody drew up
we had them draw
what they look like.
And then and as they drew my character, they said, "This scares me."
Yes.
I can post it if you guys are interested in seeing it.
But the idea of I have always been in the Christian bubble, and that's kind of the pet store, right? And so I'm asking Danae or this wildcat Furfur, what's it like in the real world? Because you've gone and experienced the real world, and so there's kind of even that philosophical element that tweaks my brain that I really like. So what's fascinating about this stuff is the idea of that just sits there, right? It just sits there to the side, and you don't lament it because you're not constantly thinking about it. But when you do think about it, you're like, oh, that's an idea that could be something, but it's not right now. And so that's part of the weird thing about being a creative person is because I have tons, like I have an idea for a mobile game that I think be absolutely one of the best selling games ever.
I have a couple of ideas for an app that would be amazing.
Right? Like, and just you have these things, and they may not be the best thing ever, but in your brain they are, right? Yeah. Like in your brain you have this, something you want to create. I also have a sci-fi concept that I've actually talked with Jeremy about that he likes as well, that just has, like, it's in me and it needs to come out of me. I think I've talked about it, but
I think you and Jeremy could write like a killer sci-fi film.
But anyways, I even have the title, and it's just called Destiny Falls, and I know exactly where it's going.
Don't tell anybody.
I know who a lot of the characters are. It's a 3-novel arc that each novel kind of plays a different. Anyways, I have this thing happening in my brain, but again, I'm not prioritizing the time to sit down with it and to get it out in words. And that is the creative conundrum, I think. So it's
I am right now experimenting with launching a podcast without a plan, because as a creative, I have so many ideas that it can actually stall momentum. And so on December 14th, I was just looking at one of my posts. Like, I just was like, fuck it, I'm doing this thing. And it's terrifying because I don't have a plan. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to keep up with it, but I need an outlet. Like, I just need an outlet somehow. And so that's something that I'm doing. And it's like, I don't know. So there's part of me that I like being creative and having ideas, but then stepping out and doing it is really scary. So I'm challenging myself to write, and I'm challenging myself to follow through, and hopefully that means that in time I'll be able to really focus on something that it germinates, like you're talking about your storyline, Aaron. The stuff that I have been germinating on for years, maybe I'll actually give it space to live. So I love this question. The question that when I read it though was like, do you have plans? And the answer is no. No, none of us.
I mean,
we kind of don't have plans.
Depends on how you define plans. And I guess I would also say there is no shame in a creative idea never being fulfilled. I hate the idea of someone feeling like, I had this great idea and I never did anything with it. I'm an awful person. You have to understand that ideas go unfulfilled. That is something that is going to happen. Now, and a lot of it does have to do with the passion you pursue something with. If there's something that you're really excited about and you can prioritize that time and find that time, pour yourself into it and make it happen and get it out there. And whether it succeeds or fails, it actually succeeds. There's no shame in trying something that doesn't end with the result you thought it would either. There's just no shame in the creative process. It has to be an open process that can leave things by the side of the road, that can send things down the road that maybe should have been left by the side of the road, that can send things down the road that are great. You know what I mean? All of that is beautiful to me, and that's just part of the process. So,
great question.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that question. Thank you, Carson. And again, if you have a question for us, you can send that via email, behindthesins@cinemasins.com or behindthesinspod@gmail.
Or BTS at CinemaSins.com. Or what was the other one? Send me your pictures. What was? I don't remember what it was now.
Pixar didn't happen.
Pixar didn't happen.
At CinemaSins.com. All right, let's move on to...
Should I actually make that a real thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Pix with just C? P-I-C-S?
P-I-C-S?
Or it didn't happen.
Okay, I'm going to go make that right now. So if you guys use it, it's going to work.
Pixar it didn't happen at CinemaSins.com. All right, let's move on to Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Let's chat about something from the pop culture world that we've seen recently. I've already kind of hinted at mine, so I guess I'll go first. I started watching Mrs. Fletcher on HBO.
Cool.
I am going to start with the granddaddy of warnings. This is a very explicit show, pornographic-wise as well. This isn't one of those shows where it's like, oh, it's about pornography, but it doesn't show pornography. Like, there are moments in this show where it shows the pornography the people in this show are watching. So it is.
I'm sorry. Is this the one with is it Catherine
Hahn? Right? Isn't that who
Catherine
it is?
Hahn? Yeah. I just want to make sure I knew what you were talking about. I have not seen this yet. I've heard about it.
So I think the entire full first season is out if you have HBO Go or Now or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's Catherine Hahn, and her son is played by Jackson White. And basically, it is the story of what happens when she empty nests and discovers kind of the sexual side of herself. This is a weird. I don't know if I'm recommending it or warning it, per se or whatever. But I find the way that this show handles her exploration of her sexuality fascinating to me, because it just seems like such an honest thing that she's going through in understanding who she is as a sexual being when she hasn't been a sexual being for so many years as she's been raising her kid or whatever. And the thing that I'm falling in love with this show is actually the journey of her son, who is a grade A jerk. Like, he is an awful person to people he's gone to high school with, to whatever. He's your typical bro, and he goes off to college to join a frat and, be that guy and binge drink and all those kind of things. But what's interesting is the show has empathy for him as a human in a way I haven't seen this character given empathy. And by the end of I'm not going to give a lot of the stuff away, but by the end of the first season, he has a complex story arc that is just starting to develop. And I cannot wait to see what they do with this character, because it is the typical Stephen King bully, kind of character, but given an authenticity of his humanity that I find really fascinating. One of the main characters is played by Jenn Richard, who is a trans woman, and she is playing a trans woman in the show as well. And I've just, again, really appreciated those conversations and kind of how the show handles those things. So a discerning recommend, maybe, because again, it is a very explicit show, but I'm fascinated by the character work that's going on here in both the main characters. So wanted to get that out. What about you guys? What do you got, Jonathan?
I guess I had a couple of different things. I think I'm going to talk about the TV show. So I started watching a show that premiered on USA Network about 4 weeks ago called Dare Me, which is, I guess you would call it, a mystery suspense thriller. It is set in the world of high school cheerleading, but it's also based on a very popular novel by the author Megan Abbott, who writes a lot of these type of suspense thrillers. I don't know. I'd seen a couple reviews about it that made it kind of intrigue me, even though I normally probably wouldn't watch a show about cheerleading. But this is a really, really well done show. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I think the 4th episode aired last night, so I don't know where it's headed. But I'm definitely in for at least this first season to see what's going on, because it's pretty fascinating. You've got Willa Fitzgerald. The actress Willa Fitzgerald plays this cheer coach who gets brought into town for this high school team to try to make them better. And then you've got a couple of girls on the team that kind of form the 3 main characters. One of them is played by, I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Herizn. I'm going to go with Herizn. Guardiola, I'm going to go with. And then Marlo Kelly plays the other character, and Marlo Kelly's character is kind of, I guess, what people would refer to as the queen bee. She's the one that thinks, she's the shit, and she's always kind of been in charge of she's always been like the main cheerleader and all that stuff. And then, of course, course, the Willa Fitzgerald character comes in and kind of breathes reality into the situation. I do think that Horizon Guardiola, which I'm butchering that name, she's someone to look out for. I could totally see her being someone we're talking about in a year or two in movies and whatnot. She's really, really, really good actress, really good young actress. But she comes into town to take over the cheerleading squad, and I guess I won't give too much away, but stuff starts happening with the characters, and yeah, I guess like kind of shit gets real. And like I said, it's definitely in that mystery suspense thriller genre. And I think anyone who enjoys that type of show would be into this, even if you know nothing about cheerleading or anything like that, because it's really smart. It's really dark, and like it's got a really cool style to it. I think USA is kind of sneaking in there with some pretty cool shows. The Sinner obviously started a couple years ago. That's become a pretty popular show. Mr. Robot's ending, but that would be another one I think you would throw in there. Mm-hmm. They've actually got a show about The Purge, based on The Purge, that's actually pretty good. That's been on for a couple years. They did a Bourne Identity show this past year called Treadstone, and then they've got another one coming up with Rosario Dawson that looks really good called Briar Patch. They're doing these really interesting, dark, and kind of like thriller-esque shows, and they're kind of recreating their identity from back in the day when they had stuff like Monk and Psych and whatnot. They're kind of changing everything up, and it's so far it's been really interesting. But this show has just fascinated me after 2 episodes. I can't wait to see where it's going. So if that sounds interesting to you at all, I definitely recommend checking it out. I assume it's on Hulu or something else as well, if you only stream and don't have cable, but it's on the USA Network on Sunday nights.
Nice. You mentioned Briar Patch, which has been fascinating to me because it's created by a guy named Andy Greenwald. Mm-hmm. And he, for many years, has been on one of my favorite pop culture podcasts. He's one of the 2 main co-hosts. And so it's one of those weird things where somebody who I don't actually know, but I feel like I know because I listen to their podcast, is kind of having his creative breakthrough moment. And it's kind of one of interesting. It happened because Sam Esmail actually started listening to their podcast and started guesting on their podcast, and I think they developed a relationship. And so Sam Esmail is producing his show Briar Patch. So
yeah, it looks really cool. It kind of looks like it reminds me, for whatever reason, of Oliver Stone had a movie called U-Turn. I think that was like in the late 90s.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it's like that small town, like paranoia kind of, I don't know. It just looks really interesting. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, good stuff. Danae, what do you got?
I am going to recommend a YouTube channel. I love Jenna Marbles. This is not the YouTube channel I'm recommending, but it's kind of in that world. She and her guy, Julian, they do a lot of really great. He's got a great channel, vlog channel, and of course she's got her famous, long-standing YouTube channel.
You've been telling me about Jenna Marbles for a long time.
I love her.
It was one of the very first things you introduced me to in our friendship.
Yeah, I really like when there are women that are just boldly themselves, and it gives me confidence to be boldly myself.
Why would you like that? That's so strange.
And I've actually been told that I'm like Jenna Marbles, and I always find that as a compliment, so
Nice.
Thank you. But anyhow, she and Julian started a gaming channel. So the channel is called Jenna Julian Games. They're on Twitch. And because I like their personalities, of course, I was really excited to see that they're starting to do a playthrough game series on Detroit Become Human. So I've watched many gamers play Detroit Become Human before, but now Jenna Marbles and her boyfriend are doing it. And so even though I have seen a lot and I'm like, I got to be done with this. I have to be done with this game. I've never even played it myself.
Isn't that interesting?
But I love watching it. And it's one of those games where every choice you make has,
Repercussions.
It unlocks different abilities for you to interact with your environment. So, if you pick up a clue or something, then that's going to change how you can do something else later on because you have this clue. But you might have walked over it. You might have skipped it. Or maybe you decide to talk to somebody and you're rude to them. Well, then that's going to change the conversation patterns that you can have. And at the end of each kind of chapter that you're playing, it shows you the line of decision making that you made that got to the end of the chapter. Right. So you kind of even get to see how many more options there were, or there's all these different things. So you can watch someone play this game and not really see all that it can do. And then I think I've watched some of PewDiePie play back in the day of him playing this game, and then there's some other gamers, and they make different decisions. So here it's Jenna and her boyfriend, who I adore, making these decisions together playing the game, which is super fun for me. And then of course they have no idea what's going to be happening later, and now I do, so that makes it fun as well. Anyways, if you've played Detroit Become Human, or you've watched anybody else play this game before and you enjoy Jenna and Julian, you might have fun. They just started uploading a week ago though, so this is going to be one of those where they're going to be releasing them every week as they play. It's going to take some time for them to play the entire game, but I literally watched 2 hours of them playing this. Yeah. You're talking about like where I'm going to find time. Now, at the same time, I was cooking and cleaning and doing all the things in my life. I wasn't just sitting down. It's like a podcast in my ears, but it's YouTube.
Right.
So I've already invested many hours into this, and I will continue to do so because I love watching them like argue about whether or not to steal a coat.
Right. Yeah, totally. The Let's Play culture has been such an interesting development over the past several years. And it makes me wonder if movies and TV shows weren't so particular about copyright stuff, if there would be like a Let's Watch community, because that's the thing about Let's Plays is they let their games be shown in these streams, for people to play and comment on or whatever. But you can't do that with movies. And, it's fascinating to me to think, that opening up and giving the freedom to do that is actually benefited these games in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I wish content owners could see the benefit of being a little freer with how they let the public own, their material.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
Anyways,
so that's my recommendation. If you're a gamer, if you like Twitch, this would be something that might be fun for you.
Nice. So what channel is it on? Its own specific YouTube channel?
Jenna Julian Games.
Jenna Julian Games. Well, there you go. That's going to do it for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you are subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter. It is at CinemaSins BTS is the main show Twitter. We have our individual Twitters as well. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DENEE says.
And he is at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we'll catch you next week. If you fall, we'll catch you.
If you fall, we'll catch you.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Why don't I hear you? Oh, you didn't.
I didn't. Oh, crap. Why is there something always wrong with our recordings? I probably should blow my nose and pee.
Okay.
At the same time.
Do it.
But I'm going to do it in the bathroom because it's very messy.
That's the reason you're going to do it in the bathroom? Ooh-wee. What's up with that?
Couple of problems with your bathroom downstairs. And I mean 700. But you're
one for each pubic hair?
Yeah, I lifted the toilet. There were 6 pubic hairs. I had to wipe that down. And then I'm also peeing into some kind of demon summoning soup. I just want to let you know your children are gross.
And I'm a horrible host.
All children are gross.
I don't know. I think I'm convinced Iris is just going to be clean as a whistle.
That's the hope, right?
I mean, how were you as a child? Were you clean? Were you a clean child?
What do you mean?
Like, did you clean up after yourself?
Never.
Right. So.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Danae.
Yeah. I just keep telling myself it's going to be fine.
I'm just going to say one thing that having cameras in your main rooms in your home will do for you is remind you that nose picking thing never goes away. Everybody picks their nose every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. I do mine when I drive.
Ooh-wee. What's up with that? What's up with that? Do you know that reference?
Nope. I'm literally just trying to mimic you.
You are captivated.
No, let me tell you what was really happening. I mean, I was partially listening to you, which is not abnormal.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of listening do you usually do when I'm talking? 6%? I get 6% on a day-to-day basis?
No, not a day-to-day. Just in this particular moment. Because I had that thing going on where, our professional headphones that we've got have like the swirly... swirly cord.
Yeah.
Like
spring. It's like
had a kink in it, where they somehow got backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing that thing that sometimes you can magically get them to just, instead of unwinding everything.
Right, it's like fixing a slinky.
You can, sometimes it just goes, and then it just magically, and so I was fixated with that. And I apologize.
It never magically released, though.
No, it did. It's fine. Look, I fixed it.
Good.
Mm-hmm. That's the important thing. Not that I was listening to my friend.
6% is what I get.
Just in this moment.
In most moments, what would you say?
What?
Exactly. I was explaining to Danae the SNL sketch, What's Up With That?
Oh, I actually had that written down. I guess I didn't notice that in the script, so when I saw it in the video, I died.
It's so great. It's one of my favorites.
My wife and I still quote that. We always, what is it? It's
Keenan.
Who's the Fleetwood Mac guy?
Oh, yeah. That Bill Hader played every time.
Yeah. Why can I not think of his name? That's terrible.
Yeah, well, I don't know either. Danae would know. She knows Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, she's a huge Fleetwood Mac fan.
Yeah, what's the question?
Lindsey Buckingham.
Forgot to listen again.
Lindsey Buckingham. We were trying to remember who was in Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was just this random thing where Bill Hader would play Lindsey Buckingham. He was a guest on every episode, but he never got to talk. And it was just like, I don't even know where they came up with that.
Oh, it's so random and it's so funny. I was telling her how much I love it, and she was giving me 6% of her attention while I did.
Like there was one where it was in one of the parts where he was singing. They had the girl that fell down the well was just randomly there. Remember that?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I was telling her they don't do it anymore because so many of those random pieces have left.
Yeah.
Sudeikis isn't there anymore. Hader's obviously not there anymore. Armisen. So a lot of the randomness that, kind of got added over the years is kind of gone. But I kind of wish he'd redo it with new randomness.
Oh, yeah. Man, Sudeikis
so
in that sweatsuit just like running or whatever he was doing.
That was so funny.
he comes in.
It can't be explained, though. It's just... You just have to witness it.
I told her, I said, Sudeikis, you're just waiting for Sudeikis to come in his tracksuit, do the Running Man, and play the saxophone. Like, it's just, that's that sketch. And if you've never seen it, you're listening going, what is going on? And if you're not listening even, like maybe listening 6% to the story, then you're even more wondering what's going on. In fact, I'd say maybe you're wondering what's up with that.
Nice.
What's up with that? Where's your focus now, Danae?
I'm looking at pictures of my phone.
What kind of pictures? Porn? Are you looking at porn again?
No.
Okay.
Well, some people might feel like it is, but it's not.
So are you feeling better?
Yeah. Technically, yes.
So you just kind of like out of nowhere got sick as hell, basically?
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's always fun.
I was trying to figure out, like, I did have to go on last Friday. I had to go to the doctor because I need to get a referral to a specialist for a potential surgery on my wrist. And so, but I started getting sick on Tuesday. So maybe while I was at the doctor's office, I picked up something. But it was legitimately like at 1:30 in the afternoon, all of a sudden my nose started to kind of run. And I remember saying to the people that I was spending time with, guys, I'm really sorry. Like all of a sudden I guess I am having an allergy thing.
I'm leaking all of the sudden.
And within 24 hours, I'd gone through 2 Kleenex boxes.
Oh, that's the worst.
Oh, wow.
And I sneezed so much that my jaw hurt from like my clamping shut. And I started to have the ability to experiment with how I sneezed. Like I decided, because it was happening so much,
Only
I'm like,
Danae.
this time I'm going to try it this way. Because I'm like, obviously,
what a silver lining. You're not usually that kind of. You're just like, you know what? If I'm sneezing this much, I'm going to do some experiments.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, my body is trying to get something out. And so let's stop sneezing out of my mouth. Let's just go full on nose this time.
Nasal sneezing.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you're like making a commitment.
Snazeling.
To blow air at ridiculous like quickness out of like a really small cavity instead of like your mouth. So
two small cavities.
Yeah.
Well, one that turns into two.
But here's the thing, like when you're all clogged up, you don't know how it's going to go. Like what if all of a sudden just a whole bunch of snot appears? I know that's not how it works. And then like it blows your brain. You know what I mean? This is just terrifying.
That's exactly how it works.
Yeah, that is how it works.
And that's I mean, that's scientific.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're going to leak though, I think your nose is a good spot to leak from
I
as
leak
opposed to
all
other
the time. I mean, monthly there's so much leakage that happens. It's just a lot.
Normalized menstruation. Normalized menstruation. What else did you experiment other than snazeling?
Oh man, I have gotten to do so much with snot rockets.
Okay.
Which
did you close one nostril?
Oh yeah, I did the whole thing because I'm trying to get it all out, and when you concentrate the airflow, you just get better. And then like I would change also I would lower my chin towards my chest to sort of like get a different angle. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with all kinds of anything to do with sneezing and snot.
Did you experiment with false sneezing? Have you ever done this?
At you?
No. The other thing where you actually have to sneeze, but you continue to let the air come in until all of a sudden the sneeze goes away before you actually sneeze. Have you ever done this?
I did not. I have done it before, but I didn't this time. This time there was so much legitimate sneezing happening. I was trying to get whatever out of my body.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I sneezed 20 times in the course of just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like let's say 5 minutes passed and my husband was like, I've never heard anyone sneeze this much. It was so much sneezing.
Did you try an ice cube?
No.
It works. I'm telling you, suck on an ice cube.
Not when you have illness that is trying to come out of your body.
All right, fair enough.
And it's still just lingering, which is why I sound congested, because I am.
So you're saying don't go to the doctor?
Never. I hated it too. Listen, I have a bone-like thing protruding from my wrist right now.
Yeah, you've got stuff going on.
It is alarming to look at.
You should probably get that taken care of.
And instead of being able to go to a doctor who can take care of this.
By the way, she's not kidding. You can see it. It's like she has a growth.
I assume if you say that, that's what's happening.
So it's very clear I need to go to someone who knows how to take care of this.
Yeah.
But first, I have to go to the doctor, my regular doctor, to get a referral.
Yeah.
So I have to go into gross illness for no reason. It reminds me of when I would have to take my infant, when she was an infant, for her monthly or semi-regular wellness checks to make sure that they're growing properly. So you have to take them to like disease soup area just to see the, just to make sure. And then she picked up getting sick several times just from going to the doctors. It sucks.
My whole immune system changed when I started running, like 12 years ago.
You might not have been sick, but you've had other things that are a lot worse.
Oh, yeah. No, I've died.
Yeah.
Certainly I've died a couple times.
Yeah.
There's not much your immune system can do about your heart stopping.
No, I'm okay with a cold over that.
I don't think we can say you died a couple. I think that you passed out.
No, I died the second time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you were zapped
my
back.
heart, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My heart was stopped for
It's like
almost
you're
a minute.
a robot. Like you weren't kidding when you said you were half Terminator.
Right. No, I love it, man. I've always said, bring on the mechanics. Put them inside me.
Yeah.
Put your metal inside me.
Wow. All right. I think that's.
But I don't get the referral thing. Like if you're sick, why wouldn't that doctor that works on that type of sickness just be able to see you? Why do you have to go see somebody else?
Yeah, it's a weird system.
It's weird. I don't understand. I'm sure there's a reason because I know nothing about being a doctor. I did stay at a Holiday Inn.
Well, if there's one thing I know that the U.S. does really well, it's healthcare. Boy, we've got that all figured out in this country. So
you need a drum roll or you need a
rim
cymbal
shot
crash.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna skip.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like after that, you're like, what is it? The whole like, I flew from Vegas. My arms are tired.
Are my arms tired.
Yeah, I want to know how people smell.
All right, we'll get there. We good?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
All right, here we go.
All right, here we go.
Is that Nixon?
Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy
You had a
Stewart.
bit of a Nixon in there too, so I was confused.
Jimmy Stewart host. Danae, if you need to sneeze, go ahead.
I need to blow my nose.
Do it. Blow.
Isn't that impressive?
That was very
I
impressive.
think I just fell in love with you. I don't even know how I'm going to continue this.